for president survived an attempt on his life in Pennsylvania while speaking at a campaign rally. Shawan Bryce-Peace reports.
A person has been detained in connection with the incident, with the Associated Press citing its sources, reporting that the U.S. Secret Service opened fire on a man pointing an AK-styled rifle at the club course as Trump was playing a round of golf. The AK-styled weapon was later recovered at the scene. The suspect initially fled in a black SUV after being engaged by Trump's protectors, but was later arrested.
Recapping the top story, the renewal of the ANC to win back the support of the people will depend on improving the quality of its membership. This is the message former President Thabo Mbeki delivered to structures of the party in Gauteng on the final day of the ANC's renewal workshop that took place this past weekend in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start with very heavy traffic on Durban's N2. Heavy for a Monday morning and heavy at any time. You might want to avoid this. The N2 going south, there's a breakdown after Umgena Road. There's a crash before Spaghetti Junction. All of that unfolding sort of southbound before you get to Westwood Mall territory. So net result, of course, is in a construction zone as well. Net result is a very heavy queue that extends right back through to Inanda Road. If you're just coming down the N2 and you want to get into Durban, off ramp at Queen Nandi, take Chris Hani over Connaught Bridge and go in that way this morning and avoid the N2 southbound. If you're routing down for Spaghetti Junction connections out to Pinetown and Pietermaritzburg, might want to think about off-ramping at Umgena Road M19 out through as an alternative route. Misty between Pietermaritzburg and Vryheid up through Dundee area, inland parts of KZN, some difficult visibility out that side today. And Cape Town, an earlier crash on the N1 inbound at Kryfontein before Brighton Road has been cleared and all lanes on the M1 open at that area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Plenty of action over the weekend, but let's focus on the Natal Rich Boys. They had a victory, and that was over TS Galaxy, and plenty to look forward to in the Currie Cup. It will be the Sharks. They dominated the Bulls over the weekend as they head into the final. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 6. Good morning, South Africa. Today is Monday, the 16th of September, 2024. From Auckland Park in Johannesburg to wherever you're hearing us from this morning, in every city, town, dorpy, village, hamlet and Kasi, from the heartland to the hinterland. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, here to deliver it to you one more time. Overnight and over the weekend in the United States, we're seeing pictures on screen as I speak to you. The Secret Service in that country has foiled what looked to be a second assassination attempt on the former President Donald Trump in as many months. The incident took place at Trump's golf course in Palm Beach, Florida. A Secret Service agent who was part of those tasked with walking just slightly ahead of Trump on the golf course is said to have noticed a barrel sticking out of the nearby bushes and immediately opened fire on the subject, who fled but was later arrested. We will focus on the U.S. election and also around the issue of the need or otherwise of a second debate in our international update. And of course, we'll then bring up this particular incident that happened overnight, yesterday in the United States, yesterday afternoon. And over the weekend again, the raging debate over the Bella Bill continued, and it's now an act it's the Bella Act, not Bella Bill, after it was signed, of course, by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Also, reflections and tributes over the weekend continued on the life and legacy of the late former Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, loved and hailed by many for his role in the liberation struggle, management of entities such as the South African Revenue Services, as well as his role in fighting back against corruption and state capture, but equally slammed by many for his management of the public enterprises portfolio, the poor performance of entities like Eskom and Transnet during his tenure, as well as his handling of the failed sale of a 51% stake in SAA. But coming up on this show in the next 3 hours, Action SA has withdrawn from its coalition with the Democratic Alliance in Tshwane. Big development in as far as the governance of that city is concerned. Action SA President Herman Mashaba says the party was exploited and abused by its coalition partners in the metro, and he will begin talks with potential coalition partners and will decide who to work with going forward. Herman Mashaba is scheduled to speak to me at about 7:10 this morning. The South African Democratic Teachers Union is calling for the resignation of the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwagube, after she did not attend the public signing ceremony of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, Bella Act, when it was still a bill on Friday, just as it was about to be signed. Gwagube has said that while she is opposed to the bill, she will implement it when it becomes law. And that has happened already, save for those few clauses that will come into effect a bit later on. So we'll be speaking to SADTU just after 7 a.m., in fact at about 7:20, and we'll be talking to SADTU and NAPTOSA as well. And lastly, let me flag this story that we meant to bring to you last week. The Master of the High Court, one of the most direct and impactful contact points for many South Africans with the country's justice system. But to say that it is in shambles would be an understatement. We are scheduled to get an interview going about that a bit later on the show, about what the Department of Justice is doing to fix that, with Doc Mashabane, who is the Director General in that department. Of course, we have the regulars for you throughout the morning, and Musa will have your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic ever so frequently. Zai Khan will be watching your sport throughout the morning, and Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business, as well as market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, we are taking your calls, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. And you can send us WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is the morning brief on SAFM.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to Outsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
It just shows that Outsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Temperature Rising tells the story of 3 activists as they grapple with what thinking globally and acting locally means as they fight the barriers to climate action. Airs Sunday the 8th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Bengu, 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 bengu.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Yeah, for that, let's cross to Ann Musa now. And Ann, did you have a fantastic weekend?
Good morning, Tulas. I had.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Rested.
Great.
Very important.
Nice. Let's do it one more time this week.
Yes. We're ready for it.
That's fantastic. Ann, what do we have on the news diary this morning?
Well, unpacking the outcomes of the ANC's Gauteng Renewal Workshop held over the weekend, where the former president, Thabo Mbeki, said that the ANC needs to just focus on strengthening itself as well as service delivery in efforts to claw back from the 40% support it received in the May 2024 elections. Gauteng Education Today, starting with school placements for grades 1 and 8 learners. The MEC, Matome Chilwane, outlined the placement period yesterday and said the department has a capacity to accommodate over 400,000 applicants and more than 800,000 applications were received, but pledging that all learners will receive a place in school. The National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, we know has been plagued by a number of corruption scandals which impacted on the delivery of services to over 1 million students funded by the scheme. We preview the Minister Nobuhle Nkabane launching the funding applications for the 2025 academic year, and the NSFAS application system has gone through, some changes and several enhancements to ensure a seamless application experience for prospective applicants, and a briefing just to highlight these enhancements that were made, as well as unpack the application process, as well as supporting information that the applicants might need. It's almost 7 months since her disappearance. 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith and her mother Kelly, along with the 3 co-accused, will make another appearance in the Vredenburg Magistrates Court this morning in connection with the disappearance, and the state expected here to transfer the case to the Western Cape High Court. The 4 accused are charged with trafficking and kidnapping for the purpose of exploitation. In the Free State, a 27-year-old mother expected to appear in court. A case of concealment of birth has been opened against her, and it follows the discovery of a newborn baby in a deep freezer. In Limpopo, 2 separate murder trials will be heard in the Thohoyandou High Court. The media socialite Libuwane Madadze's trial for allegedly killing his girlfriend will resume after being postponed earlier this year. And in another trial, the 3 Radzuma siblings are being tried for more than 40 counts, including the murders of 2 SAMU leaders. We had about 50 witnesses who have already testified since the trial started last year. And just lastly, the theft case against Longwe Twala, the son of the music legend and producer Selo Chico Twala, also expected to resume in the Randburg Magistrates Court this morning. We know that Chico Twala opened the case against both of his sons at the Douglasdale police station. Those are just some of the stories that we will be focusing on this morning.
Yeah, thank you for that packed diary, as always there. That's Ann Musa. She'll keep you updated with everything coming out of the news every 30 minutes here on the Morning Brief. All right, let's move now to your weather. There are 2 warnings that I want to flag for you. There's a yellow level 2 warning, and that is to say that severe thunderstorms with large hail, damaging winds and heavy downpours leading to localized damage to susceptible formal and informal settlements and flooding of roads, low-lying areas and bridges. Those severe thunderstorms with those associated conditions are expected in northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. There's also a fire danger warning for extremely high fire danger conditions that are expected over the southwestern bushveld of Limpopo and the Limpopo Valley. The rest of your weather then, Pretoria is cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 30. The expected UVB sunburn index in Pretoria is high. Johannesburg is cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, minimum 18, maximum 28. Vereeniging, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, minimum 16, maximum 28. Mbombela, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 22. Polokwane is partly cloudy with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 28. Mahikeng, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 31. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 7 to 28. Kimberley is partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 8 to 28. Cape Town, the weather is fine and the wind in Cape Town is moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly but strong in the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 19. The expected UVB sunburn index in Cape Town is high. Gqeberha, the weather in Gqeberha, if I can quickly turn my page now. Gqeberha is partly cloudy with the wind being moderate to fresh southwesterly. It's a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 19. East London is cloudy with isolated showers and rain. The wind in East London is moderate to fresh southwesterly. It's a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 18. Durban is cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh easterly to northeasterly. The minimum temperature in Durban is 17 and the maximum is 22. The expected UVB sunburn index is moderate. Richards Bay is cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind is light and variable with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 24. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog. Otherwise, it's cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers. It's a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 20 in Pietermaritzburg.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
So another twist then in the U.S. election, the race towards the elections in the United States, which will be on the 5th of November. Overnight, news coming out that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, has survived what would have been a second assassination attempt. The incident took place at Trump's golf course in Palm Beach, Florida. A Secret Service agent who was part of those tasked with walking a couple of hundred meters ahead of the former president on the golf course is said to have noticed a barrel sticking out of the nearby bushes and immediately opened fire on the subject, who fled only to be arrested a bit later on. It comes, of course, as the debate continues around whether or not the candidates should have a second debate after the debate that was held last week. Let's turn now to Dr. Kingsley Makubela, who is risk analyst and former diplomat and public relations executive. Dr. Makubela, good morning. Thank you for sharing your time with me this morning. Let's start with this incident overnight, the second assassination attempt that was foiled by the Secret Service and the police. I'm wondering how much of it you caught in the news and perhaps your interpretation of what it means. The last time there was an assassination attempt on Trump, I remember reading headlines that said, this is the day Trump won the presidency. Can the same be said this time around?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. No, yesterday's attempt, it's totally different from the previous one, because the first one, up to now, there's no public reports about the investigation, how far it has progressed, who were involved. There are conspiracy theories around this assassination. And this one, it's also fueling that. These conspiracy theories that are coming out, some people are saying the Trump campaign is intending to earn some sympathy. And there are people who are thinking that Trump it's a target of the military-industrial complex. Because if you look at Trump's history, even during his first presidency, he stopped major wars where the military-industrial complex was pumping money. His pronouncements now that he will stop some of the wars that are going on, it's creating uncertainty within the United States. Senator Paul came out last week saying the United States cannot keep on making money out of this military-industrial complex. And as long as the Secret Service is not coming up with details of who are these people, were they planning as a group or these are individual lunatics, it will keep on raising concern. The 58-year-old who was arrested yesterday for this second attempt, perhaps we'll share more light about what's going on, but the United States has been very mum about the investigations.
Yeah. Let's turn now to the race itself. Kamala Harris is keen on a second debate. Donald Trump, not so much. And this, of course, in the wake of varying assessments of how the debate of last week went. The Harris campaign saying that she won that debate, hands down. The Trump camp saying that he won that debate. Does it matter at all whether or not these candidates actually have a second debate between them? What is the purpose? What would be the purpose of having another debate?
Thulasizwe, traditionally there are 2 presidential debates and 1 vice president debate in the campaign. From where Trump is sitting, I think he's honored the obligation in terms of the number of debates that they are having at the presidential level or at the presidential candidacy level. That the first one was with Joe Biden and the second one was with Kamala Harris. So I think he has met the obligation. But before this previous debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, Trump had indicated the willingness to do another debate. And the Harris camp was not keen. They were only keen for 1 debate, and they were arguing that essentially 2 presidential debates would have been met because Trump wants to have the 3rd debate using the Fox News. Fox News is much more to the right and very much in line with Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris has been very reluctant about that. There's a view now that maybe the PBS should be used for this debate and using different rules. So Trump actually is entirely correct. But if you look at the outcome of the debate, there are 2 issues that the Democrats have criticized Kamala Harris around. That she never responded in terms of the immigration issue and the economy issue. And these are the key drivers of this coming elections in the United States. And that's why you are seeing this keen interest by Kamala Harris to want another debate, because she wants to try to address these 2 issues that she thinks will be determining issues in terms of the U.S. voters.
Yeah. But from your reading of that last debate, there was a lot of talk about what Trump said, for instance, around migrants in parts of the United States, and some of the subsequent pronouncements have just doubled down on some of those claims. He feels that the moderators were unfair on him in that he was being fact-checked on everything that he was saying, whereas the same was not being done for Kamala Harris. But your sense of the value of last week's debate in terms of showing us a clear front-runner for this election?
It's not clear for the front-runner, I must say, Thulasizwe. But in terms of I've observed a lot of presidential debates in the United States. The moderators are not allowed to do fact-checking. That is a process that is usually done immediately after the debate by different media outlets who would try to question what people said, if they have facts, they have merit. But in this case, the moderators were only focused on fact-checking Donald Trump. They became essentially participants to the debate. They shouldn't have done that in terms of the rules of the presidential debate. And that's why it's fueling this thing that Kamala Harris has been favored and so on. And where she was supposed to be fact-checked, it didn't happen. For instance, she said herself and Biden, they've stopped wars where the Americans are put in harm's way. That's not true. Everyone knows that in the Middle East, they are in harm's way, in Syria and so on, in other parts of the world. So that was not factual. But that was not taken up. Only Trump was taken up. That's why it's fueling this thing of really favoritism. And there are conspiracy theories also circulating around that. But I've seen some statistics that the news outlet that was conducting this, they've lost close to 120 million since the debate in terms of the sponsors and so on who felt that there was favoritism.
Lastly then, Dr. Makubela, I always like to bring it back to why this matters to us in this part of the world, in South Africa, on the African continent. And as I was thinking about it, actually I found a way to frame it that just last week, we heard about the U.S., articulating a position that sort of supports the expansion of the UN Security Council. And I thought to myself, if there was ever any doubt that the U.S. election is consequential for South Africans and Africans, this dispels it, doesn't it?
The U.S. elections are very important to all of us. That's why some of us, we wake up in the middle of the night to observe that. because the decisions the Americans make internally, they invariably affect us. For instance, this question of the Security Council, the United States is of the view that there should be two positions that are not having veto power. And they are saying that they will still discuss the modality as to which country it's going to be part of the Security Council, dangling a carrot amongst Africans, of course starting a fierce debate amongst Africans as to who should be included, instead of discussing the principles and the modalities of how this new Security Council should look like. They are starting to pick up. That's one issue. Of course, the other issue is that even Kamala Harris has said this during the debate. This question of international rules and norms, there's no such thing. Because there's no one who worked out on these norms. What exists is international law, that the country must abide by it.
Yeah.
And the United States has been trying to smuggle this idea of international rules and norms, and these rules and norms are determined and decided by the United States and imposed on everyone. And that's why the whole world is really resisting that we should stick to international law. And there are different instruments in international law that regulates behavior of the states.
All right. I've got to thank you. I've got to leave it there. That's Dr. Kingsley Makubela, who is a risk analyst and a former diplomat and is also a public relations executive with our Worldview update this morning, looking at the U.S. election. At 29 minutes to 7, let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the MK party head of presidency says the party is prepared to reassign the members of parliament it removed from the National Assembly to other positions in the party. The renewal of the ANC to win back the support of the people will depend on improving the quality of its membership. This is the message former President Thabo Mbeki delivered to structures of the party in Gauteng on the final day of the ANC renewal workshop in Boksburg East of Johannesburg. And Gauteng parents and guardians will from today start receiving school placement offers for grades 1 and 8 learners in the province next year. This will continue throughout the year until all learners are placed. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a busy back to work Monday with some incidents in all the wrong places, all the busy routes. There's a crash on the N3 at Spraithview just before Heidelberg Road. So that's a big queue coming in from Vosloorus up through Spraithview on that N3 Joburg bound. A breakdown on the N12 leaving Benoni near Atlas Road. A vehicle burning on the R21 South at Olifantsfontein Road as you come into the roadworks. So there's a heavy queue on your way towards the airport. And the SGM Pathlari into Pretoria CBD. Heavy queues already into Marabasta. Going to Durban both ways. On the N2's heavy. There's big queues from Toti up through Tweeny Hill area. Really big queue. That's a lot earlier than normal. Looks like something's happened on Tweeny Hill. Crash before Spaghetti Junction. Still pushing a queue right back as far as in Nunda Road. Now that's the second collision on that section of road this morning. Plus there's a breakdown. Plus of course the long-term roadworks N2 South under pressure. Cape Town looking fairly busy with the queues on the N1 already from Belleville, from Durban Road right through to Sable Road. The N2 not too bad through Khayelitsha, but you'll get to the airport area and sit in the busy N2 all the way through to Mowbray Main Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. I know you want to talk about Richards Bay FC clinching their first ever win over TS Galaxy, but I have a duty, Zai, to salvage my reputation and not be seen to be biased against the Amakosi out there. I was commissioned by one Humphrey Govender to specifically congratulate Amakos. I'm carrying out that mandate.
I agree with you. The congratulations are in order. What can I say? Chiefs really showed us that their opening day victory is not just a one-off. They want to target a bright start. So, yeah, good things happened over the weekend. Lots of celebrations. I think this team, they're still probably celebrating the whole week, and that's the opening premiership clash where Richards Bay secured that 1-0 victory over TS Galaxy. It was a goal from the defender Keegan Allen in the 22nd minute, proving to be the difference. Despite TS Galaxy dominating possession, Richards Bay's defense, I think, just held firm, and this win marks such a milestone for Richards Bay. They've narrowly avoided relegation in recent seasons, and this victory is a turning point for the team looking to make their mark in the top flight. Elsewhere, we saw Arsenal. They had a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Tottenham in the North London derby that took place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. On to some cricket news. England and Australia's T20 series ended in a draw after the third match at Old Trafford was washed out. Heavy rain throughout the day in Manchester prevented any play, and the series ended 1-1. The team will now head to Nottingham for the start of the 5-match one-day international series, and that begins on Thursday. And athletics news, sprinter Akani Simbine and middle-distance star Prudence Sekgodiso finished the season as South Africa's top-ranked Diamond League athletes. Now, in the Diamond League, athletes score and accumulate points throughout the season based on where they finish in each race, and the top athletes in each discipline taking part in the Diamond League final at the end of the season. So Simbine, he turns 32 on Saturday, and the 22-year-old Sekgodiso each ended the Diamond race ranked 4th on the final standings of the 100 meters and 800 meters respectively. Their efforts rewarded, each earning nearly 500,000 rand each in total prize money in the lucrative Invitational Track and Field Series. Golf, the second-ranked Lilia Vu captured the deciding half point, and the United States defeated Europe yesterday to win the Solheim Cup for the first time since 2017. Vu birdied to win the 17th hole and made a tap-in birdie to take 18 and tie the Swiss rookie Albany Valenzuela to give the Americans 14.5 points to clinch victory at the Robert Trent Jones Golf Club that took place in Virginia. And finally, motorsport news. Lando Norris drove an extraordinary race to catch and pass the title rival Max Verstappen as his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The race ended under a virtual safety car after a crash between Red Bull's Sergio Perez and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz, who collided while disputing third place with 2 laps to go. Piastri pulled off an audacious pass on Charles Leclerc. Here's Oscar Piastri.
I knew that when I was in DRS on that one lap, I knew I had to try everything to make it stick, because if I didn't, then I definitely wasn't going to win the race. So I knew I had to go for it. Once I pulled it off, I was like, okay, I'll try and get a bit of a gap with clean air, but I just couldn't break DRS, and to hang on for so long, with very, very few mistakes, I think definitely one of my best drives.
And that's a wrap of your sport on the Morning Brief. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn now to Ndauleng Lechela, who's got your business update for this morning. Good morning, Ndauleng. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. You are looking at China, and the performance there of the economy, and the data is not looking good.
Morning, Thulas, and that's right. Now, China's economy is showing signs of slowing down in August, with retail sales and industrial production growing at a slower pace than anticipated. Now, starting with retail sales, that rose 2.1% in August from an increase of 2.7% in July. Industrial production jumped 4.5% in August, missing expectations and slowing from July's 5.1% growth. Although industrial production fell short of expectation, it still outpaced retail sales growth. According to Darius Tang, an analyst at Fitch Bahau, this highlights a key issue in China's economy, which is a mismatch between strong supply and weak demand. And like many other analysts, Tang is calling for more stimulus. Fitch Bahau expects the Chinese government to introduce additional targeted stimulus measures in the fourth quarter to boost consumer spending and stabilize the real estate sector, providing gradual support to the economy amid these challenges. Now, the data, including the downbeat numbers that were released last week, suggests that the economy underperformed in the third quarter. In the second quarter, GDP slowed to 4.7%, down from 5.3% recorded in the first quarter. Now, the second quarter figures spooked investors as growth slipped below the government's target of 5%.
And then Minerals Council South Africa is one of those critical voices of industry in the economy in South Africa, watching various matrices in terms of how the economy is performing, particularly on issues of trade. They've had something to say about South Africa possibly missing out on the minerals rush.
That's right. So they're calling for a critical minerals plan. South Africa currently holds key minerals for the future like cobalt, copper, lithium, manganese, and nickel. And to take advantage of the global demand, the Minerals Council says a plan is needed to support trade in minerals used for making clean energy technologies. According to an economist at the council, Hugo Pinar, South Africa has a competitive advantage in the primary mining of several transition minerals, but issues like high electricity costs and shortage of skills are hindering growth. Pinar says that once that's addressed, the country should focus on selling these minerals to other countries as South Africa's own market is too small. Now, in terms of financial benefits, a recent study revealed that if South Africa can upgrade its mineral industry, it could boost exports by 195 billion rand in 4 years. This could also have a positive impact on the continent, with African countries potentially gaining 567 billion rand in exports and creating over 2.3 million new jobs in the same period. In terms of policies to support growth in this industry, Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe announced in July the development of a critical mineral strategy to boost South Africa's transition mineral sector. This, however, will only be implemented next month.
Lastly, Dowling, recap for us the markets in Asia, the United States, as well as how it ended locally.
So markets closed off the week on an upbeat note, with equities in Wall Street all in the green. The Dow Jones leading the gains there on Friday, closing 0.72% higher. Traders on that end were digesting economic data that pointed to a more dovish Fed stance. Over in Asia, trading quite thin today, with Chinese and Japanese markets closed on account of public holidays. The other indexes, like the Hong Kong Hang Seng, not faring well, digesting downbeat Chinese retail and industrial production numbers. Back at home, local markets also closing off trade last week on a strong note, benefiting from an improved mood with sentiment pretty upbeat. The All Share gained close to 0.4% in Friday's session. The Rand, in the meantime, starting the week off on a high, firming to 17.68 to the dollar, breaking through that 17.70 level.
All right, Ndauling, I've got to thank you. We'll talk again in the second hour of the show. That's Ndauling Lechela. She's watching all things economics, business, as well as the markets for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I was watching an interview that you did recently, and you said in the interview that you promised yourself that when you have resources, when you get to a place when you have resources, that you'd never complain about having too much.
No, not at all. Because you can't be this accomplished in life and still move from a half-empty cup. There are people you can threaten with losing a job. You can't threaten me with that. You can't threaten me with being broke. You can't threaten me with, when you black coming from Sharpeville, there's things you can't threaten. You can't threaten anybody by what they've been through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know him as Thibaut Touch, born Thabo Molefe, the legendary radio broadcaster.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So this next story happened late last week, but we decided to proceed with it anyway because the dimensions that it brings to the fore remain relevant and important. Several families living in the Johannesburg inner city have been left without electricity following Johannesburg City Power's decision to disconnect their homes from the grid. They reside in the Octavia Hill flats, which have been cut off due to non-payment. These are government-owned flats, which City Power, and that's the dimension that I'm talking about. These are government-owned flats, which City Power says have been defaulting on payments and accumulated debt amounting to over 12 million rand. I'm joined now by Ngobani Mzizi, who is Senior Manager of Revenue Enforcement at City Power. Good morning, and thank you for your time this morning, Ngobani. Just tell us about this operation to cut off from Octavia Hill, as well as this dimension that I say is important, that these are government flats. Can you confirm that these are government-owned flats that have defaulted to the tune of some 12 million rand?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Let me begin firstly by answering the first part of your question to say, can I explain this operation? So this is a citywide operation where we are embarking on collecting revenue that is owed to us. This is not necessarily an operation that is different to our normal revenue management value chain processes, because for every sound and solid revenue management value chain process in an organization like ours, or any organization for that matter, that is in the business of making money to a certain extent, there are some measures that are taken to collect money. So in this instance, ours is to terminate the service that we supply. So this operation is just one of the initiatives to spell out, or at least to make a certain level of noise, or to show that we are indeed intentional about collecting our money. To Octavia Hills is one of the customers, one of the buildings, if I may put it like that, that we went to disconnect as part of the operation, because we're going to each of our service delivery centers once a week for the next, for 16 weeks in the second quarter of this year. So this Octavia Hills is in our what we call the inner city service delivery center, or SDC. Yes, they do owe 12 million. When we got there, we only got to know when we got there that it is owned by the provincial government. So I know probably the next question would be, why do we not talk? So it is not in our list of of our human settlements department within the city of Joburg, number one. Number two, it is a very derelict and a very old establishment. It looks like a hostel of some sorts when one got there. And it looks like it has been dilapidated and really not taken care of. So many of the developments since the day that we went in there have now started emerging, in that some of the residents started saying they pay 400 to somebody or some people from the department, which we cannot confirm, because even as it is right now, the department still hasn't come back and told us. I mean, this is all based on hearsay from the residents that are there. Some say they do pay 400 rands, but they admits that they do not pay for the services in that regard. And also then, if it is the department, they also have not been paying. And the reason, probably one of the other reasons, maybe if I can just finish this before you go to your next question, is that even in the name of the building in and of itself, it does not in any way, shape or form spell out that it belongs to the government. So we were just going out to high owing customers and buildings that were owing us.
So I guess it would raise issues of intergovernmental relations. And let's park that for a moment. I do have a question for you, though, Ngobani. How does any customer of yours, regardless of who they are, and you hear these massive figures, how do you get to 12 million rand? And I'll tell you, I've been in areas with my accounts with the city, and I was threatened with being cut off when what I owed was probably not more than 1,500 rand. How does anyone get to 12 million rand? Does it not point to weaknesses in your system?
Well, how it gets there, firstly, let me take it a couple of years back, right, into 2020, 2021, because that's when we saw a growth in our debt book, where we were requested, at least there was an informal moratorium, if I can call that, by the President of South Africa for us just to be more understanding because of the financial plight of people during COVID. And unfortunately, we saw a ballooning of our debt book during that time to now, firstly. Secondly, we then, around 2022, then started ramping up our collection efforts and initiatives. And to that extent, that's why you are also saying that you would receive communication informing you to pay. So we started doing that. And of course, we have been yielding results here and there. Thirdly, we would then go and terminate services of certain customers who unfortunately would then go and reconnect their own services, or maybe with the aid of those rotten apples within the system, and we can also engage on that if you so wish. Maybe they will then reconnect themselves, and we see that's how. Then the consumption is continuing on their devices, because we can see that on our meters. Our meters are digital, are automated, so we can see. So that's the third part. So we then found good to know, in this particular instance, we had previously disconnected them, and that's why this one becomes so pertinent and important to all of us, because when we got there, we saw that they had even locked our chamber, so we don't have access, which pointed out and confirmed to us that we had in previous times terminated their services, and they would constantly reconnect themselves without even engaging a provincial government. And it only came to the fore now that it's government's
So a myriad of factors, factors are at play. I've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for engaging me this morning. That is Ngobani Mzizi, who is Senior Manager of Revenue Enforcement at Johannesburg City Power.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a very busy Monday morning around a lot of incidents. If we start in Joburg, an earlier crash on the N3 north at Heidelberg Road has back traffic up quite severely coming in from Vosloorus on the run passing Spruitview. There's a breakdown leaving Benoni on the N12 at Atlas Road, so that's heavy right back through to Snake Road and back towards Pitfontein. Crash further in at Giluli, so the N12 and R24 routes are badly backed up coming in from Ekurhuleni towards that. Stationary bus on the Mike 1 south at Marlborough Drive, so you're down the lane there with a heavy queue already from the N1 Buccleuch, on your way very slowly through to Sandton. There's also a crash on the Deepcliff interchange through to Uncle Charlie, so the N1 ramps onto the N12 at Deepcliff are being held up. Vehicle burning at Clayville, R21 south near the roadwork, so extra pressure there on your way between Pretoria and the airport. It's a completely different traffic pattern to what you'd sit in every morning, with that vehicle fire just getting in the way and restricting further lanes. A multi-vehicle pile-up on a wet road, that's the N2 coming into Durban around Amanzimtoti's Tweenie Hill, so from Toti, big queues up in towards Isipingo as you line up to get past that one. Still dealing with an earlier collision scene on the N2 south before Spaghetti Junction, so traffic remains heavy back as far as Inunda Road territory, and of course that collision in the roadworks as well. Cape Town, weather's a lot better this morning than Durban certainly, but there's a lot of traffic. Give you an idea of that. The M3's already back beyond Constantia, and the M5 back beyond Kenilworth towards sort of Parkwood and Grassy Park area, so just two indicators of how much traffic there is around the highway and byway networks in Cape Town this morning. Don't leave it too long before you get into it. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
More than 2 weeks since the Unemployment Insurance Fund's service website, U-Filing, went down, the Statutory Income Insurance Scheme now says it has been able to process payments of up to 419 million rand during the downtime. The service's website has been down since a service provider appointed to maintain it was hit with an interim interdict applied for by a competitor. The takedown sparked long queues and inconvenience for claimants. including those seeking to apply after losing their jobs recently, as well as those on maternity or adoption leave. Meanwhile, the UIF Commissioner, Tebogo Maroping, has been placed on precautionary suspension for a 5 billion rand deal between the fund and Tuja Capital, owned by businessman and politician Mthunzi Mdwaba. Joining me now is the UIF's Director of Communications and Marketing, Trevor Harting. Trevor, good morning, and thank you for your time. How did you manage, let's start with the one issue, how did you manage to process all these claims despite the shutdown of the website?
Thank you, Tulas, and good morning to yourself and your listeners and your team. All right, so what we did was we decided to repurpose our staff. We then started sending forward to frontline some of the back office staff, and we also released what we refer to as Provincial Rapid Response Team. So there are labor centers in each province, and there is a provincial office presence in each province with staff. So we then released those staff members to also go and assist at labor center. But then over and above that, there's also a national support team that we have since deployed to go and assist at labor centers on the ground. And what we're basically doing is we are monitoring the demand in each province, monitoring the demand at particular labor centers, and then that is where there's a need, we then send the bulk of our additional resources to them. But also, we have what we call a queue management system, which is basically if we find people in a queue, we then sort them according to their particular needs and then get one or two officials to assist them on the spot.
So processing 181,000 claims and paying out about 419 million rand sounds impressive, but the only challenge is I don't really have the backdrop against which to judge it. How does this compare to how much you would ordinarily be processing within a period such as this one? Because I ask you this question because I can tell you now, as soon as our conversation ends, I'm likely to get inputs from people who are users of the system who will be saying our experience is not as impressive as it sounds.
Okay, sure. Well, let me say this for you firstly. The majority of South Africans that have applied for UIF, more particularly those that have used our electronic system, this very system that is down, they have encountered some or other problem over a period of time. Now, in the absence of this system, we were able to directly process our claims, meaning that the hiccups that you would have ordinarily had with an electronic system that where your information is captured on, that delays things to get to the next stage, etc., all of those things, they are no longer in place, meaning that when I see someone here, it's real-time processing. You are right in front of me, I capture your stuff, I process it immediately, and it moves along to the paymaster. With an electronic system, there are various stages that it needs to go through. It needs to verify, it needs to adjudicate, it needs to do all of those things. But with the human resource, you can actually do that immediately. Now, I don't want us to think that we should be moving away from electronic platforms and doing things electronically, but there was an issue with the system, and this is one of the things that we are trying to address now. So by and large, this could also be seen as a blessing in disguise because it gives us an opportunity to completely revamp this online system.
And lastly, Trevor, let me ask you about the suspension of the commissioner last week. I don't imagine that it's business as usual. I would not easily be convinced that it's of no consequence to the organization. How is it affecting the work of the UIF?
Well, I can tell you this much. Insofar as the work of the UIF is concerned, we have our routines, we have our plans, so we'll continue to work according to those plans. There will not be any disruption insofar as the plans is concerned. Where there will be disruption and change is insofar as the management of the organization is concerned. We have the DG has appointed one of the chief directors to act in the position of commissioner in the meanwhile, and it's someone that is quite familiar with the operations, and actually she's the chief operations officer, so she's quite familiar with the organization. So I don't think there will be much disruption except for here and there some changes because, in leadership, people have different styles.
And is there any sign that there's a resolution at hand to the problem with the website and that interim interdict that had been obtained?
This is quite a difficult one to answer, Tulas, because, but I'll tell you this much, there will be a solution, and that is something that we are working towards. There's a number of options that we are currently exploring. Among others would be to develop a completely new system and to go live with that system, as opposed to a system that has already given us problems for quite some time and that there's now a dispute over insofar as taking over and maintenance and support. So that is one of that is some of the options that we have, but there are others in that. Because there's a court matter, I can't discuss them right here. But we are pushing very, very hard to get this thing out of the way and to get an online presence back on board for our clients to be able to be serviced.
All right, Trevor Harting, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That is Trevor Harting. He is the UIF Director of Communications and Marketing, talking about the work that the UIF is able to do despite the problems that have been experienced regarding the website, the service website that has been down now for more than 2 weeks. It really is more than 2 weeks after an interim order was obtained by a competitor to a service provider that had been appointed to maintain the UIF website. And the UIF telling us that they've been able to process payments and saying that there are alternative pathways, including the 23 service and labor centers that are providing a 6-day service that they say you should be able to use, as well as employers being able to make payments directly to the Department of Labour for them to remain compliant with those statutory contributions that they need to make. And that brings us to 7 a.m. Time for a news update with N. Musa.
SABC News, independent and impartial.
In our top stories, MK Party prepared to reassign MPs removed from the National Assembly, and Mbeki calls for an audit of ANC membership. Good morning. The MK Party head of presidency, Makasela Mzobe, says the party is prepared to reassign the members of parliament it removed from the National Assembly to other positions in the party. Mzobe was speaking in an exclusive interview with the SABC. The party was hauled before the courts by 10 of its MPs last month for replacing them in the National Assembly. However, the Western Cape High Court dismissed the urgent interdict application. The MPs have vowed to appeal the decision. Mzobe says MK leader Jacob Zuma wants to do right by the MPs.
We represent black people and we know the financial implications in their livelihood once they are sown in and removed. We also know about their integrity, their dignity, their families. We are quite aware of that. That is why the approach was made that, guys, don't accept this. We know you might have told your families, your friends, there's an expectation, but the organization is repurposing its a responsibility now. We request that you don't accept this deployment, we'll deploy you somewhere. But I think because of how it was communicated and in hindsight, we do feel that maybe at a senior level of President Zuma, they should have been approached. That is why there's an attempt now to give them that opportunity that no one is targeting you.
The renewal of the ANC to win back the support of the people will depend on improving the quality of its membership. This is the message former President Thabo Mbeki delivered to structures of the party in Gauteng on the final day of the ANC renewal workshop that took place this past weekend in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg. Mbeki acknowledged the party has over the years attracted careerists and criminals. He says there's a need to audit the membership and consider the possibility that there be reapplications by existing members.
Does the ANC cease to be a mass organization if its members are 500,000 rather than 1 million? In terms of quality, what's the difference between 1 million and 500,000? Because obviously, in my view, a process which would result in all of us renewing our membership by applying, I don't think it will result, it would result in a mass exclusion of this membership, such that it ceases to lose its mass character.
Gauteng parents and guardians will from today start receiving school placement offers for grades 1 and 8 learners in the province next year. This will continue throughout the year until all learners are placed. Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane briefed the media in Johannesburg yesterday. He says parents and guardians whose applications are complete will be notified via SMS. They have 7 days to accept a placement offer as final or accept it provisionally. Monique Lewis has more.
Of the more than 800,000 applications received, over 300,000 were complete applications, whereas more than 19,000 were incomplete. Chiliwani says the department has the capacity to accommodate over 400,000 applicants from grades 1 and 8. However, all learners will receive a place in school. Chiliwani emphasized that when parents and guardians accept an offer from a school as final, the learner is automatically placed at that school, and this cannot be reversed.
The case against Longwe Twala's son of music legend Chico Twala is expected to resume at the Randburg Magistrates Court today. Chico Twala opened a case of robbery and theft against his sons Silo and Longwe at the Douglasdale police station earlier this month. However, Silo was released due to insufficient evidence. Chico accused his sons of stealing his studio equipment with more than 200,000 rand from his home in Fourways in Johannesburg while he was out of the country. Water and Sanitation Minister Pemi Majodina has appealed to municipalities affected by the maintenance of the Lesotho Highlands water tunnel to implement water security measures. The planned shutdown of the Lesotho Highlands water tunnel from the 1st of October to the end of March next year will result in a water transfer shortfall from Lesotho to South Africa. The shutdown will affect other provinces that receive water from the project. Majodina visited the Free State to assess the state of readiness.
Water, as we know, water is life, and at all times must ensure that we provide water to our people, to our communities in general. It is important to note that during this outage, there will be no water deliveries from Lesotho to South Africa. It is therefore important for municipalities to ensure that water security measures implement various water enforcement mechanisms like water restrictions, but those water restrictions must not disadvantage people.
And finally, the President of Mexico has signed into law a highly contentious measure under which most judges will be elected by popular vote. The bill has faced opposition by critics who fear it will undermine the independence of the judiciary. In a video on social media, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador called it a historic day.
Que se acabe la simulación. Let's put an end to the simulation, because we talked about living in a democracy, but no, an oligarchy was in power with a facade of democracy. Now it's different. Now it's the people who are in charge, and it's the people who decide, and it's put into practice.
Recapping the top story, the MK party head of presidency, Makasela Mzobe, says the party is prepared to reassign the members of parliament it removed from the National Assembly to other positions in the party. Mzobe was speaking in an exclusive interview with the SABC. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, extra busy on the R21 between Pretoria and the airport. That's the roadworks plus an earlier vehicle fire incident which backed everything up through there. Stationary bus and trailer stuck on Joburg's Mike 1 South at Marlborough Drive. So heavy coming through Buccleuch off the M1 onto the M1 on your way to Sandton. Breakdown on the N12, Joburg bound at Atlas Road. Crash at Galuli's interchange. There are two big queues to work through coming through Benoni in towards Bedfordview this morning. Also an earlier crash at Sprayview on the N3 North, still holding traffic coming in from the Vosloorus side up towards Heidelberg Road. Durban bound, leaving a Monsamtoni, a big crash, multi-vehicle pile-up at Tweeny Hill. That's heavy traffic leaving Toti right through to Isipingo. M7 into Pinetown's bad. M13 down Fields Hills, a heavy queue as well. An earlier crash going into Spaghetti Junction, still with us on the N2 South, so traffic remains pretty heavily backed from Inunda Road, and there's a collision going up towards Queenlandy Drive on the N2 North as well. It is wet across the Durban and coastal areas of KZN, and that rain forecast to be with us much of this week, so start to think about driving safely, please. In Cape Town, just very busy, particularly the N1 inbound, queuing up from Durban Road at Belleville all the way through to Kubo Interchange. Marine Drive getting fairly heavy. Queues down towards Racecourse Road, and then queues as we saw right across the weekend going into Woodbridge Island as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Soccer action as Orlando Pirates, they thrash Jwaneng Galaxy and they have the group stage in sight. And in Formula One, the Red Bull boss Christian Horner has blamed Carlos Sainz of Ferrari for causing the lap crash. We'll find out more at around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is 8 minutes after 7 on this Monday, the 16th of September, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. We have crammed as much as possible, as much as anyone can cram into an hour. So I won't be elaborate in my introduction into this hour. But I will tell you, though, that in a moment I'll be in conversation with the Action SA leader, Herman Mashaba, who will be talking to me about coalition politics in the city of Tshwane and the implications of their withdrawal from the coalition with the Democratic Alliance. I will also be in conversation with the South African Democratic Teachers Union as well as NAPTOSA. We'll be discussing the implications of the signing of the now Bella Act. It was Bella Bill until Friday when the president signed it and it became law, save for those aspects that will kick in a bit later on. So it's now the Bella Act, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. And also there's a call, of course, from SADTU for the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Kwagube, to resign after she did not attend the public signing ceremony on Friday. We have all of your regulars, and Musa with the news, Rob Byrne with your traffic, Zaikan watching your sport throughout the morning, and Dauleng Lechela also has your economics news coming up over this hour. And of course, we are taking your calls, and the number to dial for that is 086 000 2032, and you can also send us your WhatsApp voice notes and we'll play those live on air on 061 410 4107. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Temperature Rising tells the story of three activists as they grapple with what thinking globally and acting locally means as they fight the barriers to climate action. Airs Sunday the 8th of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their seventh title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchmen in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Politics now and free at last. These are the words used by Action SA President Herman Mashaba as his party officially cuts ties with the Democratic Alliance in Tshwane. Mashaba made the announcement during an address to Action SA members and supporters in Soulsville Arena in Atteridgeville, Tshwane on Saturday. He says the decision was taken by the party's highest decision-making body, the Senate. The announcement comes as the ANC in Tshwane has submitted yet another motion of no confidence against the DA mayor, Silias Brink. The motion of no confidence will be heard on the 26th of September. For more on this, I'm joined now by the Action SA President, Herman Mashaba. So there was a period of time, Mr. Mashaba, where the DA wanted you to come out clearly and commit that you remain committed to the coalition, and you could not do that, and you said you were waiting for the highest decision-making body of your party to make that decision. You've now come out with a decision. Spell out that decision for us.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to SAFM listeners. I think one thing that DA needs to understand that Action SA is not a sub-branch of the DA. We operate as a totally independent party. When we take the decision in the interest, firstly, of the residents, in this particular case of Tshwane and South Africa, but more importantly in the interest of Action SA. And we did indicate to them that we will revert to them as and when it is appropriate. Obviously, Senate met after receiving the report. We met on the whole of Friday, and the decision was taken, a very clear one, that come the 26th of September 2024, with the ANC motion of no confidence against the mayor, two options for Action SA. Action SA will either vote with the ANC for the removal of this mayor in the event that in the next 2 weeks we manage to agree with the ANC on the type of government that can serve the people of South Africa, serve with servant leadership and fight corruption. In the event of our failure to reach an agreement with the ANC, Action SA is not going to defend the mayor of the city of Tshwane. We will just fold our hands, and it's up to the DA to get the votes, I don't know where, to protect themselves from this ANC motion of no confidence.
What has gone?
They can be assured that they will not get the support from us.
What has gone so wrong so rapidly in this relationship with the DA? And I suppose we could say with the other parties that just before May 29, we're talking about a moonshot, shooting for the moon, in as far as the realignment of politics in South Africa. Yet here we are, just a few months later. It sounds to me that the relationship with the DA has broken down completely.
Well, I think, Thulasizwe, I expect you as the media and people of South Africa, when you consume the news, please make sure that you consume them properly. Actually, let's say when we took this decision, 6-7 weeks ago, we immediately made it public. We did not want this matter to be picked up in the corridors. So we made it clear, and what triggered our decision to entertain the discussion with the ANC. By then, we were already aware of DA causing up to the ANC for the stabilization of the 3 metros in Gauteng, including Tshwane, with the result that Action SA to already be removed. Now, anyone who obviously is talking about fairness, transparency, accountability, and expected Action SA to sit back and wait for the DA to remove us, I think, honestly, it is really up to that person. So when we learned about this, and fortunate enough, for the very same week, fortunate enough because Gauteng ANC refused this proposal from National Office about DA's proposal. So by the time the ANC approached us, we were already aware about this. So this made it really quite, it was no brainer for us as Action SA to do whatever it takes to protect ourselves ourselves. We realize we're dealing with dishonest, deceitful people, and it's not the first time that DA has treated us in this respectful manner. These are people who have operated in a very arrogant manner since the 2021 local
You know what I've
government
not heard in our
elections. And we've
conversation?
always communicated this.
You know what I've not heard in our conversation, Mr. Mashaba, is that what I've not heard you say is that Celias Brink is a terrible mayor for the city of Tshwane. Service delivery has deteriorated. We need to remove him to save the city of Tshwane. Even if you do say it now in response to what I'm saying to you, that is not foremost in your mind, I put it to you.
Oh no, absolutely. Thulasizwe and South Africa, we will obviously. I think a part of our report actually clearly demonstrates. Fortunate enough, these are facts which actually demonstrate that since DA took the city of Tshwane in 2016, service delivery has gone quite bad, including more especially in the townships, villages, and informal settlements. So fortunate enough, we have records of that, which we will release at the appropriate time. Right now, our focus the next 2 weeks, because the 26th of September is in 2 weeks' time. So we want, by the time we get to the 26th, that we have a clear situation whether we are going to be part of a new government or we are going to be on the opposition benches. So the lies are peddled by Celias Brink that he was the best mayor that God ever created. Fortunate enough, we will give you evidence or contrary to what the propaganda they've propagated.
All right, I've got to leave it there. That is the Action SA President, Herman Mashaba, talking about the changes, widespread changes that are afoot at the city of Tshwane in as far as coalition politics goes.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Signed, sealed and delivered, there has been mixed reaction to the President's signing into law of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. Referred to as Bella, the President signed the bill referred to as Bella at a public signing ceremony on Friday in front of stakeholders, including teachers' unions and representatives from the Department of Basic Education. Notably, though, Sivuwe Kwagube, who is the Minister of Basic Education, was not in attendance at the signing event. While the bill is now law, President Ramaphosa has announced that he will suspend the implementation of clauses 4 and 5 in the bill for a 3-month consultation period. For their reaction to these developments, I'm joined now on the line by Dr. Mokoena Maluleke, who is General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union. Also, we will be joined by Basil Manuel, who is Executive Director of the National Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa, NAPTOSA. Let me start with you, Mr. Maluleke. You are calling for the Minister of Basic Education to resign after she did not attend the signing ceremony. Why is that? Because she's made it clear that now that it's signed and it's law, she will implement it, but that doesn't take away from her disagreement with the act.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners, and thanks for having us indeed. I think we should go back a little bit when we were saying that this country is going to experience problem after the GNU. I said to the media that the Democratic Alliance will have its own parallel cabinet, and their ministers will not toe the line in terms of cabinet decisions because they will be told not to do so. And it has just happened that a minister who has taken an oath and saying, I will respect the constitution of this particular country, absents herself from the signing of a piece of legislation that would have to be implemented by her department. And that to me is insubordination or insolence of the worst kind that you can ever see in any country. If it was any country that respects democracy and the rule of law, the president would have really discharged the minister immediately.
The president doesn't agree with you, though, Dr. Maluleke.
Yes,
the president was very specific to say that if she had said, I will not implement this act once it's signed, then I would have fired her. Those were the president's exact words. But, you know, this issue of not attending, according to the president, let's not make too much out of it.
Well, you can put it that way because the president was diplomatic. I'm not going to be diplomatic. I have no reason to be diplomatic. I am saying when you take an oath to respect the laws of the country, and you are given a responsibility by the president of the country, and you have to be there. She was not there. For me, she has failed the test of the oath that she has taken, and therefore, if it was any other country, an action would have been taken. But of course, because people are missing the so-called GNU and so forth, they would not take an action. But it does not present us as a very good democracy where we can have ministers taking, instruction from their political parties when they are holding office, which is the office of our country for the people of this particular country. And I would leave it at that, because we are clear that it is not acceptable in any form of a democracy. But of course, South Africa, we miss feelings.
Lastly, Dr. Maluleka, just for your part of this conversation, the President is suspending the implementation of clauses 4 and 5. And one of those clauses, clause 4, deals with this issue of having the provincial head of Department of Education having the authority to review a school governing body's language policy, and clause 5 provides for the provincial education department to control admission policies. Was this 3-month period of suspension of operation by the president necessary in your view?
It's confusing, this particular suspension, Thulasizwe, because what the court has said, the court has said to the Department of Education, please make sure that the issue of policy, of language policy is more clarified, is more clear, so that it does not confuse anybody. And that's what the department has done, to making sure that particular clause clarifies the issue of approval of the policy, so that you democratize the processes of arriving at a decision of dealing with a language, because we are a multicultural and multilingual society, and therefore we need to respect other languages that have been marginalized. The other clause as well, it was the court decision to say clarify this particular issue around the issue of admission and so forth. So it was in compliance with the court. So it's constitutional, and therefore for the president to have afforded those who are against this particular clause 3 months of consultation, I think it was just because the president is kind enough to do so, to then say, look, you have time. So we believe it should be implemented.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Dr. Mokoena Maluleka, who is the General Secretary of SADTU. In a moment, I'm in conversation with Basil Manuel from NAPTOSA.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain, but paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny, and down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto in General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto in General. Never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Africa Chibembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's continue the conversation around the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act signed by President Ramaphosa on Friday. Let's bring in Basil Manuel, who is Executive Director at NAPTOSA. Good morning to you, Mr. Manuel. The non-attendance by Siviwe Kwagube at the signing ceremony. Are you also of the view that she should resign after she didn't attend, despite saying that she will implement the act now that it's been signed?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. No, ours is not exactly the same view. We do find the non-attendance regrettable and unfortunate because it doesn't send the right message. However, given that she now must implement, I agree that that is where the most important part lies. It doesn't matter what it contains, it's the law now, and she has to abide by the law. It is a great pity that it came to this, and even the suspension of the two clauses are, in Naptosa's opinion, regrettable.
Yeah, say more about that. Why is the suspension of the activation of those two clauses regrettable in your view?
To what end is the first question? Because number one, we've had some court rulings around the issue of admissions, and secondly, around the language issue, there's a very narrow view that this is targeted at a particular group. Naptosa, who has commented all along through 11 years almost of the bill, we are satisfied that the way the bill is structured, the act is structured now, gives us sufficient room. It's protection of languages. It can't be narrow to one language. And it's about authority as well. Where does authority end? It can't be that every single school is an end within itself in terms of authority. There must be somebody that can exercise the final senior authority. What then is the minister saying about her final authority? If we are saying that MECs or heads of department don't have authority over schools, because that is by implication what is being said. So Naptosa is comfortable with the clauses. We will await the 3 months and see what happens there. But we don't believe it can change in any significant way.
And I assume that you are comfortable with the authority of the provincial education departments around the admission policies as well. Just also broadly, the other issues that have been thrown into it about homeschooling, it's been framed in some quarters as government wanting to have a say about how your child is educated. Do you believe those are valid criticisms that have been raised?
No, I don't. Insofar as admissions policy is concerned, our directive to our principals and governing bodies at large was stay within the framework of the law. Then you can't have a problem. But if you stray beyond the confines of the Constitution and the relevant laws, yes, you are going to have an issue. But insofar as homeschool is concerned, I want to be very clear. I totally disagree with the view that says that government has no say over schooling. In the very act, it says that government has a responsibility to see that all children go to school and that those who prevent them from going to school are subject to blah, blah, blah. So even with homeschooling, we want to know that they are being taught. We want to know that they are being taught a proper curriculum, etc. I've been on the receiving end of children coming from homeschools as a principal, and they have had education that is a little deficient. So there must be some checks and balances.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your inputs this morning. That is Basil Manuel, who is Executive Director of the National Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa, NAPTOSA. And that brings us to 29 minutes before 8. Time for a news headlines check with Ann Musa.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines, 2 structures have been burnt down following a fire that ravaged the Modderfontein area in Rustenburg in the northwest. No injuries have been reported and firefighting operations are still underway. The MK party head of presidency, Makasela Mzobe, says the party is prepared to reassign members of parliament it removed from the National Assembly to other positions. Mzobe was speaking in an exclusive interview with the SABC. And the Gauteng Education Department says it won't be increasing the number of teachers next year due to budget constraints, but has committed to increasing the number of classes to deal with the growing influx of learners into Gauteng. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a very busy morning on the roads, particularly for motorists coming from Benoni through towards Joburg. There's a breakdown near Atlas Road and then a crash at Galulis. The N12 queues from Benoni through Boksburg and then really from Jet Park all the way into that crash at Galulis. R24 out of the airport, heavy to Barbara and then heavy on the run through Edenvale in towards that N12 crash at the interchange as well. N3 up at Spruitview towards Heidelberg Road going into Joburg's heavy, and then the N3 stays packed from Germiston all the way through to Edenvale. That is a breakdown around Modderfontein Road. Broken down bus and trailer on the Mike 1 South at Marlborough Drive, causing some delays. And coming out of Pretoria, crash scenes on the N1 near the R21, causing backlogs as far as Linwood Road. Durban, the N2 North is a nightmare, queuing up from Amanzimtoti right through to the M4 split around Umlazi. More queues from the cement factory up through Spaghetti Junction into the roadworks. Another queue going through to Queen Dundee Drive. There's a crash before you exit at Queen Dundee. And southbound, the crash at Spaghetti Junction still causing delays coming through from Minunda Road. Hillcrest down to Pinetown via Fields Hill looking fairly slow. Wet weather this morning across Durban, and weather of the wet nature, rain in the forecast for much of this week as well. Cape Town fairly heavy at Brackenfell on the N1 inbound towards the R300. The M5 stays jammed from Parkwood all the way through to the N2 highway, and heavy pressure on Marine Drive, slightly different this morning. Queues all the way through to Loxton Road at Woodbridge Island. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So Zai, while the Amakosi fans like my friend Humphrey Govender are saying that the love and peace has been restored after a long period in the desert, the happy people are looking for reasons to be even more happy, even happier, and they're looking to the rest of the continent for that.
Right, like you said, it does rain in the Sahara, and I think with Orlando Pirates, it rained goals for them. That's when they took on Jwaneng Galaxy in the CAF Champions League group stage. They have a 2-0 lead. They are looking forward, of course, to going into the second leg, and they are in a strong position. Coach Jose Rivero confident his team can seal the deal in the return leg, all happening at Orlando Stadium.
To play here, it's extremely difficult. It's been a challenge one more time after 1 year. We know about the difficulty to play Jwaneng. They show it, like I said before the match, in the group stage, how difficult they can be, especially playing home. And today was a proof. We got a good result. We managed to capitalize some good moments in the 90 minutes.
Let's go to the Richards Bay match. They secured a 1-0 victory over TS Galaxy. That goal from defender Keegan Allen in the 22nd minute proving to be the difference. Elsewhere, Mikel Arteta spoke after his Arsenal side's 1-0 win over Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby in London yesterday. The derby was tight and a heated affair with 7 yellow cards awarded in the first half at the stadium.
Well, the resilience that we showed, we knew that was going to be a really tough match. It's always easier. They are a great side. They create an unbelievable atmosphere. We had some great moments, especially in the first half, when opening spaces that we should have done much more than we actually done. And then we knew as well that we had a big threat on set plays, and we believed that we could help them.
That's Mikel Arteta here on the morning brief. Elsewhere, Lamine Yamal scored twice as Barcelona ruthlessly maintained their perfect start to the season with a 4-1 away win at Girona. Golf, Rasmus Højgaard produced a remarkable finish to snatch a one-shot victory at the Irish Open as Rory McIlroy failed to close out victory on home soil. McIlroy took a one-shot lead in the final day at the Royal County Down and increased his lead to 4 strokes, only for Højgaard to charge into contention with 4 birdies in his last 5 holes. And finally, motorsports. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner has blamed Carlos Sainz of Ferrari for causing the penultimate lap crash with Sergio Perez that wrecked his team's hope of a podium finish. That was in yesterday's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Now, Horner says the Spaniard had drifted across the track towards Perez to cause the collision that wrecked the Mexican's race and robbed Red Bull of valuable Constructors' Championship points. Now, the pair tangled while battling for third place behind the winner Oscar Piastri of McLaren and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. That's a wrap of your sport here on the Morning Brief. We'll have more top of the hour for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
So because I can be cheesy when I'm dowling, I I accept that I am cheesy, and I've been accused of having a dry sense of humor. I have been looking forward. I've been looking forward to this segment because I've wanted to say all along, it's not inside, it's on top. Cremora is no longer inside the Nestle stable, but does this mean it will be on top of the business?
Something like that.
Cheesy, I know.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So the Swiss group has dumped its coffee creamer brand Cremora, selling it to a French company, Lactalis, for an undisclosed price. Now, Nestle's decision to ditch Cremora, a product with a nearly 80-year presence in South Africa, will allow the company to redirect its investments towards other products that offer greater growth potential and better returns. Now, Cremora is a fave in the country, used in a fifth of all cups of instant coffee drunk in the country. Now, the company it's selling Cremora to is a firm in the same space, and it has been around for about 90 years. And in SA, it houses brands like Parmalat and Melrose. It has operations in the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and KZN. Speaking on the acquisition, Lactalis says it forms part of its ongoing strategy to expand its product range, allowing it to better meet the unique needs and preferences of local consumers. So the Cremora lovers can breathe a sigh of relief, as they'll still be able to find it on their shelves of grocery stores. Now, the deal has been given the green line from shareholders, but it is now pending approval from regulators.
I wonder if Cremora sells as much as it sells in South Africa in the rest of the
elsewhere.
world. In other markets, right? Maybe it's one of those products that uniquely sells more in South Africa than elsewhere. But in any case, I don't know. I don't have proof for that. Let's move to this now. World is flagging export issues at its Russian unit.
So World could be in hot waters. The company has potentially violated U.S. export regulations through sales of specific goods to its Russian subsidiary. In response, the group has notified the U.S. Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security of the potential violation through a voluntary self-disclosure submission. On Friday, the company announced that it has hired independent experts to assist with an internal investigation. World has, however, not determined whether any violation has happened or to what extent, and is working with the Bureau of Industry and Security. Now, World is one of the firms that decided to stick with its Russian unit despite the fallout from the war in Ukraine and sanctions that have made doing business in Russia difficult. This has come at a cost, though. In the first half of 2022, World had to write down assets from that unit worth 1 billion rand. And in its latest interim results, World reported a 28% decline in revenue from its Russian operation, with operating profit there falling 22%. So that unit really weighing on the overall bottom line. Following the announcement, World's share price tanked over 12% at the end of Friday's trading session, just showing that investors not really happy about what's happening there.
Yeah, just a quick recap then on Asian markets, US futures and the JSE.
So Asian markets were quite cautious today as equities couldn't hold on to last week's gains. This as uncertainty around the magnitude of the anticipated U.S. interest rate reductions comes to the fore this week. Concerns about the Chinese economy's outlook further weighed on sentiment there. Markets are closed in Japan and in China, so all eyes are on Hong Kong. The Hang Seng trading pretty tepid. It's down 0.05%. In Wall Street, futures are mixed, mostly in the green. A cautious approach here, as well as traders eye policymakers' next moves. Back at home, the JSE ended the week on a high note, closing 0.4% in the green. The rand losing some ground against the dollar, trading at 17.70 now, from about 17.68 against the dollar an hour ago.
All right, Ndawling, we'll talk a bit later one more time. And Ndawling Lichela will have your news, your economics and business news and the markets just before the JSE opens. After that conversation will be after 8:30.
Devastated by the brutal murder of his wife, John Luther returns in the second season of Luther to policing in a different world. With his old unit gone, Luther finds himself working in the newly created Serious and Serial unit, headed by former police complaints officer Martin Schenk. And now, a strange and mysterious masked man wanders the streets of London, carrying out ritualistic murders in historic locations, working his way up to one final masterpiece. Immerse yourself in a world-class drama with Luther Season 2, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Starts Tuesday the 10th of September on S3. Channel your inner drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
1 hour for the kids' school run, 8 hours at work, 2 hours preparing meals, and so much more. Sure, 24 hours is simply not enough to do it all. Luckily at UNISA, you don't need to find time for your studies. Anytime will do. Shape your future with the leading open distance e-learning university in Africa. Applications to study undergraduate qualifications at UNISA in 2025 are open. Visit unisa.ac.za to apply. UNISA, define tomorrow.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula, who is joining us now. And Sipho, good morning. I hope you had a great weekend. Let's start with Germany-Kenya relations. They have a bilateral agreement, a deal that they've signed. But is there concern? Was there even concern that this agreement would erode the skills needed to help industrialize Kenya?
Refreshing morning to us and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, when you look what happened over this past weekend in Germany, that William Ruto went to sign what they called a deal known as Kenya-Germany Comprehensive Mobility and the Migration Agreement. You will understand that Germany to us has been facing challenges, or the EU countries have been having challenges of this issue of this brain drain of many young people leaving African shores to Europe. But when you look at educated Kenyan youth, the target is that it will not take away the skills of the young Kenyans who have to also benefit out of this. This is according to William Ruto, by the way, when he was engaging with the Germans. Germans also are saying, but we have a vast knowledge, skills that is coming from other European countries. Maybe there is a need to have Africans also benefiting from this deal. So we'll wait and see. As you know, that Kenya has been having serious challenges lately.
Yeah, let's go to the Great Lakes and particularly Kinshasa. I see that there has been a trial, and it happened quite rapidly between the incident, the alleged incident happening, and these people being convicted and sentenced to death. And this has to do with the alleged, with the attempts to overthrow the President of the Republic.
Remember, Tula, this was in May 19 when there was an attempt by the late Christian Malanga, a U.S. national of a Congolese origin, who planned with more than 51 people, but out of 51, 14 have been acquitted of those charges. But those who have been charged and now sentenced sentenced to death, and they only have 5 days to do an appeal. We see Europeans, Americans, the British, the Belgian, Canadian nationals who have been sentenced to death. So this was an attempt coup in May. It started in the residence of the Speaker of Parliament, Vital Camara. It went to the official residence of Tshisekedi, and that's where they met their fate when they were stopped by the military government of Tshisekedi. So this is a trial that has been going on since May, and we only see that there is almost a closure. But some of the families of these young children from Europe, they say they were not certain about their children's activities.
Yeah, and I can only imagine the diplomatic maneuvering that must be happening in and around that particular issue. Let's talk about an island nation that we hardly ever talk about, the Comoros, Sipho. And I see that the president there has survived a knife attack. What's that all about?
You know, when you're talking about Trump earlier, I was laughing because I said, Thulas doesn't know that in Simelane, outskirts of the capital of Moroni, on Friday, the President Azil Osmani survived an attack when he was attending a funeral of a religious leader. And then what happened is that he had to return home. It was not a serious attack, if one can say, because security detail, civilians were able to can even protect this former military officer and a current sitting president for second term almost. Because remember, there were elections not so late in Comoros, early January. So one can still say that there are still tensions and confrontations with opposition, or was just a mere criminal act. But investigation is still going on with this attempt attack of the current sitting president.
And for your historical archives today, Sipho, you're taking us to 16 September 2004. What happened on this day?
That is almost 20 years when the then President Thabo Mbeki opened the second sitting of the Pan-African Parliament. Why it was the second sitting? The first sitting happened on the site of Galaga Estate, but now you had a permanent seat in the Galaga Estate Conference Center. And this parliament established 20 years ago by Article 17 of the Constitutive Act of the African Union. You'll understand that this is one of the organs of the AU. The parliament, not yet known to us, is only when there is a rotational chairmanship, scandals or confrontations that we start to know about this parliament. But it is here in Gauteng province. It was established in 2004, and its sitting was in South Africa. So today, the former President Thabo Mbeki opened that second sitting. Asante sana Thulas, as we're still leading a conversation, SFM observing the Heritage Month.
Thank you for that, Sipho Mantula. And believe it or not, I was actually there at that sitting in 2004 as a reporter. I can't say I understood what the Pan-African Parliament was all about back then. I was just desperate to grasp the story, file it for the SABC back then. And that is Sipho Mantula with your Africa Update.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
To this story now, the Master of the High Court Office is one of the most direct and impactful contact points that many South Africans will ever have with our country's justice system. It oversees the administration of deceased and insolvent estates, liquidations, and the multi-billion rand Guardians Fund, which holds and administers monies paid to the Master of the High Court on behalf of people such as those incapable of managing their own affairs, unborn heirs, missing or absent persons. So the utter shambles that has become of many offices of the Master around the country is a cause for grave concern, with reports of rampant corruption and collusion between the Master's office officials and syndicates involving some executors of estates, liquidators and auctioneers, among others. Well, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development has told Parliament that fixing the chaos in the Master's office is proving to be no child's play. I'm joined now by the Departmental Director General, that is Advocate Doc Mashabane, for this conversation. Good morning, Advocate Mashabane. And just to start there, you are saying fixing the Master's office. You had flagged it as a priority for you in terms of this administration, but you're saying it's proving to be no child's play. Why is that?
Good morning to us and good morning to the listeners of SAFM, and we appreciate this opportunity to join you this morning. Indeed, I think even in the past administration, we had committed to turn around that office because, as you correctly say, it's one of those offices from the justice system that directly interacts with the ordinary people on the ground in relation to administration of deceased estates. When people pass away without leaving a will behind, then it becomes the responsibility of the office of the Master to administer the estates in accordance with the administration of estates that is left interstate. Now, as you'll understand, Tulas, I think any area that either has been left for far too long to do things or business in a particular way, when you want to turn around that kind of a situation, it becomes a challenge. South Africans have become more and more aware of the office, either because of the public awareness programs that we carry. So anyone, whether it's ministers, deputy ministers, and members of parliament of our portfolio committee as well, they tell us they receive complaints on daily basis, files taking long to be processed, and then of course a lot of malfeasance that happens there. That even it's a public service space, people expected to pay in order for them to be given a swift service or in order to be prioritized, and if you don't, then your matters do not get attended to. So last year we then put a strategy in place that is trying to deal with many issues, including just the infrastructural challenges, as you were mentioning. The offices are in shambles.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them they are not a place where ideally you should be doing, public service or serving the members of the public. So it's one of those areas that we are looking at. But generally, of course, as we do that and just want to understand why do processes take a long time, then you come across a lot of, the malfeasance and the corruption. And as you'll remember, Thulas, in 2020, the President proclaimed an SIU investigation into the Office of the Masters, and we got a report sometime beginning of this year. And that report gave us a big picture of things that are not in order, both in terms of liquidation processes.
I appreciate the need, Director General, for you to understand the full scope of the problem. But I also feel that this is a problem that you've been aware of. You just cited the date of 2020 and the SIU processes. And I know that last year around this time, there was a similar statement about prioritizing fixing the master's office. Let me just put it straight to you that you are letting down the people who should be benefiting from this office. You are destroying lives in not fixing this problem, even as you do all these processes that you've outlined.
Let me start maybe with what you raised earlier, the point I had made to the portfolio committee that fixing the master's office was not a child's play. And this is the point I think I was trying to bring across, that the fight back, the moment we got the SIU report, we may have known, but we didn't appreciate, I think, the magnitude. And the report laid that bare. And now we've started taking action. Then when we took action, we started seeing the fight back from outside, people working with our own officials, openly and brazenly challenging us and say, how dare you suspend, our comrades? How dare you take action against them? So I think that's part of the point I was making. That is not a child's play. I mean, because here we're not only dealing with the officials of the department, we're dealing with people from outside as well who are practicing in that space of liquidation and insolvency. So I want to tell you, Thulas, and we'll be back here. We can come back even in 6 months' time, that look, with the plans that we have in place, we are beginning to see progress. It's still a challenge, but we want to assure South Africans that in no time the offices will be turned around and they will be able to see better services.
I've got to leave it there. I will take you up on that offer to come back in about 6 months' time for a more comprehensive conversation around fixing the master's office, which is utterly shambolic. That is the Director General in the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Doc Mashaban.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a very heavily backed up Monday morning around a lot of incidents across the nation. The N3 at Spruitview on your way to Joburg remains heavy due to an earlier crash around Heidelberg Road. N12 out of Benoni through Boksburg, a breakdown at Atlas causing delays. And then it gets really heavy again as you're on the brakes in high traffic between Jet Park Road and Galulis. That's a crash at Galulis and a problem with a breakdown at Edenvale on the N3. So once you work past that crash on the N12, you're then struggling to get through Galulis and into that breakdown on the N3 going north. Still got a broken down bus on the Mike 1 at Marlborough Drive. That traffic pushing all the way back through Allendale. Crash on the R21 heading north into Pretoria just before Rigel Avenue. So that's quite heavy. Traffic all over Durban's N2 route this morning. We've been warning about this, the wet weather conditions and the high incidence of collision scenes. A lot of them are sort of bumper bashes and rear ends on slippery conditions. The N2 is this morning backed heavily from Amanzimtoti all the way through towards Umgeni Road. There are multiple crash scenes along that N2, and a couple of them at least have been multi-vehicle pileups. Cape Town, the N1 inbound, slow still through Brackenfell this morning. There's quite a queue coming in from Kryfontein down towards the R300, and Marine Drive is solid. Queues to Racecourse Road, queues to Loxton Road, that's Woodbridge Island, and queues to Lagoon Beach. Basically, Table View through to Pardon Island jammed on that section of Marine Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Africa Chibembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Devastated by the brutal murder of his wife, John Luther returns in the second season of Luther to policing in a different world. With his old unit gone, Luther finds himself working in the newly created Serious and Serial unit, headed by former police complaints officer Martin Schenk. And now, a strange and mysterious masked man wanders the streets of London, carrying out ritualistic murders in historic locations, working his way up to one final masterpiece. Immerse yourself in a world-class drama with Luther Season 2, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Starts Tuesday the 10th of September on S3. Channel your inner drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
This is SAFM, and we are leading the conversation, but the conversation is nothing without you. So let's bring in some of your voice notes now. Let's hear this voice note about the issue of the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Kwahube.
Thulasizwe and fellow SAFM listeners, good morning. My name is Tulani Nzima in Croydon. Thulasizwe, I do not believe that we should have a minister that does not subscribe to ACT, which is a law in South Africa. I think from a constitution point of view, she has that responsibility to adhere and ensure that it is properly executed, whether she believes or she does not believe in it, period. Secondly, can you kindly call us or elucidate for me as to where does the president takes the powers when it comes to implementation or non-implementation of acts in South Africa? Because if an act becomes a law or a bill becomes an act, is it not then supposed to be the for example, the judiciary that can suspend and all of that and all of that? Thank you.
Yeah, I can weigh in on the last one, Tulani. There's absolutely nothing untoward in terms of the president staggering the implementation date of particular clauses of provisions of the law. That happens quite a lot. It is within the powers of the president in terms of having assented to bills coming from parliament to then determine the date of implementation. So nothing irregular in as far as that. You can debate the reasons that he did this in this particular instance. All right, it's 8 a.m. Time for your news update with N. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel bidder. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
SABC News, independent and impartial.
In our top stories, a child burnt and infrastructure destroyed in Buffelspoort fire, and Gauteng education to start school placements. Good morning. A child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. The cause of the fire is not yet known and is a subject of investigations. The fire has since been contained. Northwest Fire Protection Association's Eric Stock says the child is receiving treatment at a local hospital. He has appealed to the public for help with food and clothing.
I think it is now time for the provincial government to consider declaring a state of emergency to assist us to repair infrastructure, to help people who have lost everything. We have the case of what we call the mighty mountain men, where people go into the mountain with blowers and beaters to go and try and put out the fire. And one of our heroes went in, and while he was protecting other people, he lost his own home. This is really very concerning. It is something that will remain with me for a long time.
Still in the northwest, 2 structures have been burnt down following a fire that ravaged the Modderfontein area in Rustenburg. The acting Rustenburg local municipality spokesperson, Odirile Madiba, says the cause of the fire is not known at this stage and investigations are underway.
The fire is currently under control, but the magnitude of the wind might escalate it to get even worse. The fire department will continuously monitor the situation and the municipality will provide feedback. So far, no injuries were reported and operations are still going. More details we will communicate through the course of the day.
2 people have died in a head-on collision between 2 vehicles in the East London CBD in the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape Transport Department spokesperson Unati Bingoshe says the collision occurred when an SUV and a sedan collided.
Details of the real cause of the accident remain a subject of the police investigations into the crash itself. But what can be denied is the death of the 2 people, both of whom were occupants of the sedan, while the 4 occupants of the SUV escaped with minor injuries.
The MK Party head of presidency, Makasela Mzobe, says the party is prepared to reassign the members of parliament it removed from the National Assembly to other positions in the party. Mzobe was speaking in an exclusive interview with the SABC. The party was hauled before the courts by 10 of its MPs last month for replacing them in the National Assembly. However, the Western Cape High Court dismissed the urgent interdict application. The MPs have vowed to appeal the decision. Mzobe says MK leader Jacob Zuma wants to do right by the MPs.
We represent black people and we know the financial implications in their livelihood once they are sown in and removed. We also know about their integrity, their dignity, their families. We are quite aware of that. That is why the approach was made that, guys, don't accept this. We know you might have told your families, your friends, there's an expectation, but the organization is repurposing. It's a responsibility now. We request that you don't accept this deployment, we'll deploy you somewhere. But I think because of how it was communicated and in hindsight, we do feel that maybe at a senior level of President Zuma, they should have been approached. That is why there's an attempt now to give them that opportunity that no one is targeting you.
The Gauteng Education Department says it won't be increasing the number of teachers next year due to budget constraints, but has committed to increasing the number of classes to deal with the growing influx of learners into Gauteng. Head of Department Rufus Mutlana was speaking during a media briefing in Johannesburg to provide an update on the online school placements for grades 1 and 8 learners for the 2025 academic year.
As a system, or a growing system for that matter, we want more posts. But given budget constraints, we can't increase the number. Our fall position, the baseline is just to ensure that we keep the number of posts we declared last year the same as in 2025.
And finally, researchers working on the meteorite which was found in Nweba, formerly Kirkwood, in the Eastern Cape, say they are searching for additional fragments of it. The team of researchers is made up of academics from 3 universities, Rhodes, Nelson Mandela and Wits University. Professor Roger Gibson from the Wits School of Geoscience has urged the public to contact them if they find any fragments, as they are the only permitted team to collect the fragments.
We know that there are people who are looking for meteorite fragments and we do not understand their motives. So we're urging again the public to contact us if they think they have found something, and we will try to assist in that. The collection of additional fragments is very important for understanding how the meteorite broke up in the atmosphere and where it ended up, what the size pieces are, where they've landed, and so on. So it makes an important contribution to the science.
Recapping the top story, a child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Here's good news for you and your older car. With Outsurance Essential, a 22-year-old woman pays only 384 Rand a month for her 2012 white Kia Picanto 1.2 EX and gets paid cash so she can choose her own panel beater after an accident. Get the cover you need. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 Rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy on the way to Joburg this morning, coming off Midrand's N1. There is this broken down bus and trailer, left lane of the Mike 1 South at Marlborough Drive. It's been there all morning, so you're down a lane. The traffic's heavy. It's all the way back through to New Road. So New Road to Sandton under pressure. Crash on the N1 highway this morning, south before Ravonia. So heading from Buccleuch towards Four Ways is heavy. N12, really big traffic coming out of Benoni and Boxburg from Jet Park territory all the way through to Gilooly's. A crash at Gilooly's and then a breakdown at Modderfontein on the N3. So you struggle into the crash and then you struggle through the interchange up towards that Modderfontein obstruction. So the delay continues on the N12 once you get past that crash as you work through on for a turn onto the N3 North. Durban, the South Coast area, easing after some multiple vehicle collisions on the N2 going north this morning. It has backed up and released a lot of traffic up to the roadwork. So this hour you're queuing from Chatsworth all the way through towards the Westwood Mall, a lot heavier than normal. I'll tell you something else is a bit different this morning. Running to Cape Town, the N1 from Kraaifontein through to the R300 is quite heavy, and traffic on all approaches into Stellenbosch heavily jammed. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby with the Springbok legend Victor Matfield saying that this Springbok side could be the greatest ever. And in soccer action, the Bafana star Percy Tau scored a brace in his return to action for Al Ahly. We'll bring you details around 8:30.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
We're into the third hour of the morning brief on this Monday, and it's good to have you with us. We've had a number of conversations in the last 2 hours. We spoke to the mayor, the former mayor of Johannesburg, who is the president of Action SA, Herman Mashaba. He's been talking about their withdrawal from their coalition with the DA in the city of Tshwane and the consequences that will have for the mayor, Silas Brink, and his government in that city. We've also been focusing, of course, on the Bella Bill and the Bella Act now, and the non-attendance by the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwagube, at the signing ceremony. The president says it's not an issue. What would be an issue would be for her to say she will not implement the act now that it has been signed, which she has said she will implement it because it is the law. So I tell you what, let's open up the conversation. This is SAFM leading the conversation. The conversation is incomplete without your voice in it. So we'll take a few of your calls now before going on to the other stories that we have on the agenda. In fact, let's do exactly that. Let's start with George, who is in KZN. And George, you want to talk about former President Thabo Mbeki and his talk of the renewal of the ANC. Good morning to you.
What normally surprises me when the former president and all the leaders of the ANC, when they speak about the renewal, they speak about fighting state capture and so on, but they are not touching the issue of the president hiding the money under the sofas and mattress. So they are targeting the members that are doing the corruption at the bottom, but they don't go to the top. When they were speaking also about, when they were paying tributes about Pravin Gordhan, they said he fought state capture and so on. But they are not saying what is state capture. They are not saying specifically that he was fighting all corruption, whether that corruption belongs to the former president or even the current corruption, because they are characterizing state capture as the corruption that belongs to former president. But the corruption that is under the current president, they put it aside to say, no, that one, it's not a corruption. Maybe it's got another name, because I don't know why we call corruption state capture, because they are supposed to be fighting state corruption, not corruption under someone. So that's what surprises me, because even you guys in the media, you don't question that to say, okay, you are fighting state capture corruption, but what about other corruptions, including the money under mattress by the president?
All right. No, I hear you. It's a fair point. So what you're talking about, George, is consistency. All right, that was George there in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's move on to Ndlovu, who is out in the Eastern Cape. And Ndlovu, you want to talk about the Bella Act. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning to Thulas and the listeners. Thulas,
yes, sir.
Sometimes when you speak to these guys like Maluleke, I think it's important to address very important issues. The non-attendance by the minister, to me, attending a ceremonial signing of the bill or the act, it's not as important as addressing the issues that members of his union and other teachers are facing in the classroom. For instance, what is his take now on the issue that learners in grade 4 cannot read for meaning? And what has been done so far to correct that situation? I would say to us, for instance, around 2012, SADU in particular opposed the writing of the annual national assessments, which was called ANA. Yeah. And I still feel that if the department had proceeded with the ANA, we would not find ourselves in the situation where we are today, where our learners are set to not be able to read for meaning, which is a disgrace, by the way, because the duty of a primary school is to ensure that by the time learners go to high school, they are prepared in terms of
All right, I don't know what happened there, Ndlovu. I seem to have lost the line to Ndlovu in the Eastern Cape, talking about issues to do with the Bella Act, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, and saying that SADTU, from what I'm hearing, Ndlovu, you'd want them to stop majoring on minors and minor on the majors and worry about the issues that will improve the quality of the education. And of course, SADTU would probably retort and say they are doing exactly that. You will have heard Mokoena Maluleka's inputs about supporting the implementation of the Bella Act. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So the Tshwane Metro is turning to the Department of Home Affairs to collaborate in dealing with a problem that its Community Safety MMC, Grandi Theunissen, says is quite prevalent: illegal occupation of land by undocumented foreign nationals. Theunissen is vowing that illegal migrants will soon be deported to their countries of origin following an agreement struck last Friday, about a week ago, between the city and the Home Affairs Minister, Leon Schreiber, to cooperate in addressing the problem. The Tshwane Mayor, Silias Brink, joins me now for that conversation. It would seem, Mayor, that what MMC Theunissen says you have a particular problem with land and building invasions that seems to have unlawful migration as a common thread. Can you confirm that you've identified this as being a common thread in as far as issues of unlawful occupation of land and buildings is concerned?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good to talk to you. The problem with illegal occupation goes obviously beyond undocumented foreign nationals. We have very, very difficult eviction laws that make it easy for folks to grab land or to hijack buildings. In many instances, rents are collected on behalf of the owners. Services are charged on behalf of the municipality. But what makes the high rate of occupancy or participation in these events by foreign nationals very difficult is that when we seek eviction, we cannot provide alternative accommodation to folks who are not South Africans. The resources of the state are just too limited. And what is required is for the South African police and immigration to do their part. We had a very good meeting with the new Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, who admitted to us the capacity constraints in Home Affairs, in particular personnel to administer certain documents, as well as a very high vacancy rate. And he spoke to us about the challenge of getting digital ways of processing information. And I think that what we discussed was nothing new. It wasn't a new agreement. It's an agreement to do what we are meant to do together in any event. But we will be finding innovative ways to assist Home Affairs, and Home Affairs will have a dedicated line to us and other metropolitan cities when it comes to their part of the law enforcement operations.
All right. Let me switch to this, though. Let me ask you, you may not be around much longer to implement these plans that you have. You will have heard my conversation earlier on with Herman Mashaba and them withdrawing from that coalition agreement with the DA in the city of Tshwane. And so what is your thinking around your tenure continuing beyond the 26th of September? How are you feeling? Are you feeling you could defeat this motion of no confidence?
Well, the most important thing to say here is that it's not about me or my tenure. The challenges faced by metros are all very similar and need effective, stable governance, which is what makes Action SA's lies, deceit, and betrayal so very stinging, and which really they've got a lot of explaining to do to their coalition partners, to the South African people, and to the people who voted for them and gave them money. It is really astounding how this party has jumped around to explain its conduct, the fact that there doesn't seem to be an agreement yet. They want to bring a government to a fall without having any alternative in place, and their best bet seems to be a coalition that will include the EFF. In fact, the EFF will be a kingmaker in that coalition. It will call the shots. And I think it's just a warning to folks who've squandered their votes and their resources on a party such as Action SA, that they are an enabler of chaos and in many instances an enabler of corruption when they bring these folks to power.
Strong words. I've got to thank you for your time this morning, Mayor of the City of Tshwane, Thulasizwe Simelane, joining me for a conversation about the plans that the city plans to take around unlawful migration and its impact on the illegal occupation of buildings and land in the city, as well as responding to the news of Action SA withdrawing from its coalition, meaning that they will either fold their arms in the motion of no confidence on the 26th, or they will actually vote in support of that motion of no confidence in Mayor Thulasizwe Simelane.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that OUTsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation. The Science of Life on SAFM.
So in the wake of rising depression cases, the anesthetic drug ketamine can bring life-saving hope for people suffering treatment-resistant major depression or at severe risk of suicide. But the South African Society of Psychiatrists warns against the quote-unquote recreational or unsupervised use of the drug. The society says ketamine is a powerful anesthetic agent and a too high dosage can cause sedation and loss of consciousness, and in very high doses may cause dangerously slow breathing and the risk of death. For more on this, I'm joined now by Dr. Marcel Statsny, who is a member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists. Doc, good morning, and I've got to thank you for your time. What evidence, let's start there, what evidence is there for ketamine, that ketamine can help people suffering from drug-resistant depression? I take it that you are convinced as practitioners that, it does have this effect.
Absolutely. Ketamine can be a very useful drug when used appropriately. And that is why SASOP has put out a position statement recently, because there has been a lot of inappropriate use of ketamine. So there have been ketamine clinics mushrooming up all over the world, and the tragedy of that was seen in the recent death with Matthew Perry. And so what we as the South African Society of South Africa, as SASOP, South African Society of Psychiatrists, have done together with SASA, the South African Society of Anaesthetists, was put together a position statement which said, listen, it is very useful. It works quickly, much quicker than normal antidepressants, and it works very effectively in things like for suicidality. But this is how it must be used. The psychiatrist must decide when it is the right time and place to use it. So we are opposed to random GPs or dentists being able to prescribe it and use it in their rooms. And then the Society of Anaesthetists have said, and it has to be done in the rooms where, if needed, a resuscitation can be done and proper monitoring can be done. So together we have put out a statement saying if these two criteria are followed, then it is a very useful drug.
There's obviously and rightly been a great deal of focus on the matters of mental health and one of the manifestations being depression. But let's talk specifically drug-resistant depression. How common is that in South Africa?
So, unfortunately, about 30% of depressions do end up being treatment resistant, and often it is because the right treatment wasn't used. So treatment resistant, the consensus agreement on treatment resistant depression is that if you have had 2 proper trials of antidepressants and you're still not better or you're still not better enough, then you consider treatment resistant. But it might not be that your illness is treatment resistant. It might be that there are other factors at play, such as autoimmune factors or addiction factors or personality factors or environmental factors. And so that's why we say that by the time a patient gets the diagnosis of treatment-resistant depression, if you've had 2 rounds of antidepressants, then it is time for a specialist to review. So what we don't want is for ketamine to be added at the wrong place, and then a patient with treatment-resistant goes, oh, but ketamine isn't working. It might not be the right place and time for it.
I'm wondering if the dangers that you're warning about, unsupervised use and the quote-unquote recreational use of ketamine, what impact that is having on those people that actually need to access ketamine for drug treatment-resistant depression. Something akin to the situation we are seeing with Ozempic, if you are aware of that situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we did. There was late last year. There was ketamine shortages, and we couldn't get it in our clinics. And so we did. This position statement was also trying to address this in trying to ring fence it for mental health, very specifically for emergency room use, like if they need to set your bone or whatever, or for very specifically for treatment-resistant depression, not for everything else that it's been used for, and not only recreationally, but also inappropriate use, like for example, trying to use it for gender dysphoria, or people have been trying to use it at the wrong time. It doesn't rewire your brain. It treats depression in a very specific way, and that gives us time to allow other treatment modules to come into place.
Yeah, and just for the benefit of people listening to this conversation and always wanting to emphasize the importance of issues of mental health, if someone is listening to this conversation before you get to the stage where it is said the depression is treatment resistant and perhaps you're needing the intervention of drugs such as ketamine, what are the immediate steps to take when you suspect that you might be depressed?
Well, when you suspect that you might be depressed, there are many things you could do. So, for example, there's strong evidence on exercise, that exercise is even equal to an SSRI like Prozac or something like that. And so it's very useful to get down to the basics first. Make sure you're eating properly, sleeping properly, avoiding toxins like alcohol, and getting regular exercise. Once you've looked after those basics, a lot of people get better. And then a lot of people don't necessarily need to go to therapy to deal with issues. Sometimes you just need counseling. For example, if you're in a difficult situation in your relationship, or bereavement counseling maybe. So get the help, talk to someone. And only after that, then it might be worthwhile, if things are still not shifting or if things are getting bad, to chat to your GP, then get the appropriate treatment started. And your GP might then decide, listen, a psychiatrist needs to have a look at you and needs to look at the medication carefully, or maybe that you need to go into a therapeutic process for something, that's a little bit more deeper seated, and then a psychologist would help you with that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. I think that's the message I wanted to go out about, reaching out and seeking help at the very first signs that you are concerned about something. That is Dr. Marcel Statsny, who is a member of the South African Society of Psychiatrists, talking to us about the therapeutic drug, anesthetic, ketamine, and warning about the dangers of unsupervised use of that drug. And that brings us to 29 minutes to 9, and Anne Musa has the latest for you from the news desk.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, a child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. The cause of the fire is not yet known. President Cyril Ramaphosa has authorized the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, to investigate allegations of serious maladministration within Transnet, Gauteng Provincial Department of Human Settlement, the Mzumbe Local Municipality and the Free State's Masilonyana Local Municipality. And the MK Party says while it's excited that many more well-known South Africans will be signing up to join the party, its focus is on recruiting leaders who are activists in their communities. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, this busy Monday that we've experienced continues. There's some really heavy traffic into Joburg this morning coming out of Pretoria. A lot of it is, it's a combination of your usual sort of backlog Monday mornings, but then a breakdown as you come off the N1 through Buccleuch onto the Mike one. It's a stationary bus and trailer stuck by Marlborough Drive. It's been there all morning. The traffic, there's not really any gaps between Old Joburg Road and Sandton this morning. So if you're coming out, just make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. Also, crash on the N1 North going up to Rigel Avenue. That traffic's heavy back towards Buerta Avenue, and just back into Joburg, a crash on the N1 South at Rivonia. So coming up the N3 from Lindbro Park through Buccleuch in for a turn down to Four Ways stays really quite a heavy queue. Durban, a crash at Queensborough. It's on the M7 westbound, just past Belleville Road. That scene is being cleared. The traffic is moving. Paradise Valley's very heavy on your way to Pinetown. Now that's the M13 coming from St John's Avenue, bottom of Fields Hill, if you like, from Richmond Roadside. M13 through Pinetown, dreadfully heavy. And the N3, once you get past the M7 exit in towards Paradise Valley, that queues as well. N2 from the cement factory up to Westwood Mall, that stays busy. A lot of that traffic arriving after earlier crashes down around Munsum, Toti and Prospect, and all released at the same time. And Cape Town heaviness on the N1 now, going inbound. There's been a crash between Okavango Road and Brackenfell Boulevard. The N1 is heavy, a queue right back as far as Kryfontein. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So Zai, this idea of the greatest of all time is associated with football, and it's been criticized and critiqued in terms of how simplistic it can be. But it would seem that Victor Matfield believes that Rassie Erasmus has at his disposal the greatest of all time in as far as the Boks are concerned.
Absolutely, Tulas. I'm starting to think that Victor Matfield might be a bit biased, But hey, who could argue with that assessment? The Boks are on fire, and, we will go with the fact that this man, he's a legend, Victor Matfield, heaping praise on the current South African team, calling them a special side in a special era, especially after the historic 4th consecutive win over the All Blacks. Matfield says this team could go down as one of the greatest ever. He compares their dominance to the 2009 Springboks, who beat the All Blacks 3 times in a row, pointing out that this current team has achieved even more, including back-to-back World Cup wins. Let's go to soccer. Orlando Pirates in a strong position to advance to the CAF Champions League group stage after a dominant tunnel win over Jwaneng Galaxy. Coach Jose Rivero confident his team can seal the deal in the return leg at Orlando Stadium.
To play here, it's extremely difficult. It's been a challenge one more time after 1 year. We know about the difficulty to play Jwaneng. They show it, like I said before the match, in the group stage, how difficult they can be. especially playing home. And today was a proof. We got a good result. We managed to capitalize some good moments in the 90 minutes.
Elsewhere, Bafana star Percy Tau scored a brace on his return to action for Al Ahly as the Egyptian Giants defeated the Kenyan side Gor Mahia 3-0 in their CAF Champions League second preliminary round, and that took place yesterday. Al Ahly's victory away from home against Gor Mahia gave them a massive advantage heading into the second leg in Egypt. That's on Saturday, the 21st of September. Elsewhere, Harry Kane scored his first hat-trick of the season as Bayern Munich routed the promoted Holstein Kiel 6-1 to climb back to the top of the Bundesliga table. Tennis action, team captain Christoph van Rensburg says he was proud of the South African squad despite going down 3-1 to Lebanon in their Davis Cup World Group 2 tie held in Cairo, Egypt. Trailing 2-0 going into the second and final day of the tie, South Africa did well to pull one back by winning the doubles rubber. Lebanon will compete in the Davis Cup World Group 1 playoffs next year, while South Africa will return and turn out in the World Group 2 playoffs. And finally, golf. John Rahm ending his first year in the Live Golf League by closing with a 4-under-66 to win the final individual event yesterday and the season points title with a $18 million winning bonus. Rahm missed a pair of short birdie putts on the back nine that kept Joaquim Niemann and Sergio Garcia in the mix, but then Rahm holed a 12-foot birdie putt on the 17th hole, which gave him a 3-shot lead. Niemann shot 66 while Garcia shot 68, and they were tied for second. That's the wrap of your sport on the morning brief. We'll have more on SAFM around 12:30 with John Gericke. I'm Zai Khan.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Thank you for that, Zai. I want to bring you this interview now. The Sunday World newspaper reporting that an illegal shipment of illicit gemstones, allegedly from a mine co-owned by one of Patrice Motsepe's companies, was stopped by the South African Revenue Service as it was about to be shipped out of the OR Tambo International Airport for Hong Kong and China earlier this year. The contraband, which was being exported by an Asian man, was intercepted by SARS's customs department after it received a tip-off from whistleblowers. According to the paper, the mining company Asmang is a joint venture between Motsepe's African Rainbow Minerals and a company named Ashore, and was implicated in the unlawful export of the gemstones by Chang Chinfu, who states in an affidavit he deposed to on May the 10th that he is Taiwanese Chinese. For more on this, then, I'm joined now by Saki Mangole, who is the spokesperson for PP Gemstones. Good morning to you, Mr. Saki. Let's start with your reaction to the news that this shipment of gemstones was intercepted by SARS and Customs in May this year. Did it come as a surprise to you, understanding and knowing the industry as you do?
Good morning, Thulas, and good morning to your viewers. Most definitely, it was not a surprise because we did make our own investigation. That is why we reported the case. As a matter of fact, we are the one who opened the case, given the fact that we knew that there was something illicit happening.
So you are among the people that reported this matter?
Yes, it is PP Gemstones is the one that opened the case.
Right.
It's our company that opened the case.
So take me back then to the background that led you to this knowledge that this shipment was going to happen. And my understanding is that this has to do with one particular type of gemstone, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it sugilite or sugilite, which is a byproduct of manganese?
It's sugilite.
Yes. So
yes,
what is
basically,
the background?
Okay.
Yeah.
Our interest in mining, it's related to the gemstones. And we do research pertaining to every gemstones that we got interest in. And so we saw an article with some Taiwanese very, very excited about the discovery of gemstones. And as a very serial entrepreneurs, we did our own research. And we went to Asmang and make inquiries that there's this particular stone that we got interest on. And to our surprise, they said they're not aware of it. Given the fact that they said they were not aware, we decided to go to Department of Minerals and make our own application. So we did make an application because we knew that there was something amiss about this. And based on that article that we saw in Taiwan, it was specifically saying they discovered this stone and they are trading with stone from South Africa. It's where our interest was.
How widespread is this practice, do you believe, Saki?
It's quite huge because if I might digress slightly, if you go to Zambia, sometimes last year there were some ministers who got arrested with the same stone at the value of 650 million US dollars. Then also in our situation, I mean, if you consider the fact that Assmang has been mining there from 1920, and geologically, in terms of what they define as a geothermal environment, whenever you mine something, for instance, you can mine gold, that the chances are highly that you find uranium or something related to that. Now, in our situation, particularly within that particular area in Chwane, when you mine manganese, the chances are very high that you'll find this particular gemstone.
And lastly, what will you say to someone who reads the story from the Sunday World and gets the impression that part of the motivation on your side is rivalry with Assmang? I'm referring here to the application you lodged in January 2020 to mine gemstones in Kuruman, and that was opposed by Assmang. What will you say to someone who says, fine, you've reported this matter and it's being investigated, but at the heart of it, it may not be the issue of sergilite and these gemstones, but rather a business rivalry?
Unfortunately, you cannot consider it to be a rivalry on the basis that if they were interested, the law permit them, they could have applied Section 102 to extend them the rights to sergilite. So because if we are interested, we applied for that permit. And legally, if we are granted the permit, they cannot also apply for that particular permit. So most definitely it's not a rival. It's just we are in our space, they are in our space. And you should be allowed to mine whatever we are permitted in terms of the law.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Saki Mangole, who is the spokesperson for PP Gemstones, weighing in there on a story reported by the Sunday World, which was reporting about an illegal shipment of illicit gemstones, allegedly from a mine co-owned by one of Patrice Motsipe's companies, African Rainbow Minerals, out of the Northern Cape.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. It's another elimination week, and the bottom 6 are taken on a culinary trip back to school. For this challenge, they must create their dream lunchbox filled with nutritious yet delicious treats. And their creations are impressive. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain. But paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny. And down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Good morning, South Africa. It's good to have you with us. Let's continue now to this story. Advances in aerospace and defense technologies will be under the spotlight at the Africa Aerospace and Defense Exhibition and Airshow, which gets underway in 2 days exactly. The event is the largest aerospace and defense exhibition on the continent and is expected to draw at least 80,000 visitors over the 5 days from the 18th to the 22nd of September. Joining me now is Sekgomotso Dire, who is the executive chairperson of the Africa Aerospace and Defense Expo. Sekgomotso, good morning and thank you for your time. What can people who attend and who follow the industry, aerospace and defense, expect from this exhibition this year?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and morning to your listeners as well. Thank you for this opportunity. We have our show running over 5 days. So I think on the 3 trade days in particular, for the trade visitors, it's about looking at those business opportunities and strategic partnerships we can look at. We'll be showcasing technologies, we'll be showcasing product systems that are both applicable for defense and aerospace industries. It's about bringing on board these industry experts, bringing on board, I think, like-minded individuals to be able to build those collaborative engagements and be able to come to those business deals that I think everyone is trying to find and get access to these technologies. For the 2 trade public days, which are our air show days, it's just really for the families to come together to enjoy now the acrobatics, I think, of the aircrafts, to be able to have a good opportunity to interact with the technologies up close and personal, to have a view and access to those, defense industry products that may be so far removed from our realities, and bring them closer to have, a way to interact and make them more accessible to the people.
The air show may be the one part that is quite visible and, excites the family. But it would seem to me that the business end of it is really the core of what this expo is all about. I mean, what with the involvement of the Department of Defense and Military Veterans, the Armaments Corporation of South Africa, AMSCO, as well as the AMD and, commercial aviation and others. So it would seem to me this is more about business. What kind of technology gets showcased at a show like this? I mean, we were talking about the latest advances in aerospace and defense technologies. I imagine those must be technologies that can be applied to real-life situations.
Absolutely. I think, as you say, it is about trade. Of course, there will be a lot of interest on the defense protective systems. So you're looking at your land-based systems, which is your protective personnel carriers. You're looking at your various vehicles, land-based vehicle systems that are able to propel across various landscapes. We are looking at, of course, your aircraft systems, your unmanned aerial vehicle systems, which are your UAVs. You're also looking at anti-drone protection, because ultimately you are able to protect your airspace, your land space. We are looking at, your various artificial intelligence systems that are, I think, gaining a lot of traction. You are looking at all these other robotic technologies that are both used within the defense as well as the civilian capacity. Most of the technologies that we also try to showcase, especially in the aerospace, are what we call dual-use technologies, which are applicable both in defense but also in civilian applications. So it is about ensuring that we showcase our capabilities and being at the forefront of our technology, but to also show our competitive edge as South Africa, where we are really showcasing ourselves as being amongst world leaders in our research and development and producing technologies that are applied and, of course, actually have a great interest across the globe.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Sekgomotso Tire, who is the executive chairperson of the Africa Aerospace and Defense Expo. It gets underway on the 18th and ends on the 22nd with all of those elements, including that air show, but also importantly, issues of trade and the advancements of technology in the aerospace and defense industries.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still heavy on the run through Pretoria this morning. It's this collision scene just before Rigel. Traffic's very heavily back through Boort Avenue, back towards John Foster. And obviously, you'll sit on the R21 ramps onto the N1 North because you're basically turning into that crash. If you can, just avoid the N1 North and certainly the R21 links into it. The Joburg's N1 South, crash at Rivonia. Traffic heavy from Marlborough Drive, from the Limbro Park side, up the N3 into Buccleuch, and then all the way down towards the Sunning Hill exit as you line up in towards that crash scene. Still pretty busy through Galuli's and 12 and R24 routes into the interchange for links onto the N3 North up through Edenvale. Very slow still. Durban, busy out of Pinetown this morning. The M13 and the N3 routes coming into Paradise Valley for a trip between Pinetown and Durban. Very slow, particularly the M13, still backlogging as far as St John's Avenue Bridge territory. Pietermaritzburg down to Durban looks fine. No major problems. It's obviously wet, so drive carefully. And Cape Town, a crash now on the N1 into town before Brackenfell Boulevard. It's between Okavango Road and Brackenfell Boulevard. N1's very heavy from Kraaifontein. And if you're on your way out of Cape Town, there's been a crash near the N1 City Mall. It's before Plattekloof Road. The N1 outbound, reasonably heavy queue from Monte Vista driving into that scene. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's take some of your calls now. I have Ntlantla, who is out in KwaZulu-Natal. And Ntlantla, you want to talk about the Bella Bill. Good morning to you.
To you listeners. My brother, I hear people saying a lot about the Bella Bill, Bella X, in fact. What I'm interested to know about the Bella Bill is whether does it include teaching our kids about their mineral resources so that they can be mine aspects and geology aspects. In fact, so in the high schools level and even in the tertiary education, so that we won't be concerned about creating relying on investors. We can be our own investors, and utilize our own resources.
So as far as you are concerned, it's a good piece of law, is it?
Yes, brother. That is what is my concern, my brother, because to keep on relying on investors and saying we are running short of skills in our country while we're supposed to teach those skills so that we won't be complaining about shortage of jobs.
All right. I've got to thank you for that. That is Ntlantla there out in KZN. He believes that aspects of the Bella Act are actually good in as far as they encourage the pupils to learn about minerals and the skills that they will need to operate in industry. And it seems that the issue of the Bella Bill is pretty much on your mind to a large extent. Let's take a listen to some of your voice notes that have come through.
It seems sad to have got a short memory. The fact that signing off of a bill shouldn't become an event. It's something that the president should be doing as part of his job in his office privately. So the fact that he made a scene of out of this is actually a political act for me. That's not important. So the performance of the minister shouldn't be measured on her attendance of a non-event in the first place.
Morning, Thulas and South Africans. This is Ngabs Etsipala in the Eastern Province. I listened to the interview that you had with Mr. Darmaluleke. I'm very worried about what they worry about as a union. I just said now that they are about to cut budget when it comes to scholar transport. And where I'm residing, even now, school-going children are walking long distances. I think it's because of that budget cuts or maybe bad planning, poor planning. This is because they told me, the kids, that they change. This week they will walk, others will ride on the taxi. The next week those were in the taxi will change. So those are the things that we're supposed to be worried about, not their non-attendance. It's a minor and a special, considering the fact that the minister said she will implement whatever that has been said. So, yes.
Good morning. I really don't understand why we are being sold this propaganda about the townships not being serviced under the ETA in the Tshwane Metro, when the very CBD has deteriorated. It's filthy. You get rubble just being put on the pavements, not even in bins. And that has been happening over the past 20 years. Pretoria is in shambles, the CBD. So for us to hear that the township's services deteriorated after 2016, it's not true. Services deteriorated since the new dispensation, since ANC took over. It's just that now maybe the townships are more glaring in their debts, but the town itself has gone to the gutters.
Congratulations to Action SA for dealing decisively with their enemies, or should we say new enemies. Jay here. I guess this proves that honesty, after all, is the best policy.
All right, thank you for those voice notes. That last one saying dealing decisively with their enemies, their political enemies, in reference to Action SA and the relationship with the Democratic Alliance and that coalition in Tshwane, Action SA withdrawing from it. I wonder though, and I did ask this of Mr. Mashaba, foregrounding issues to do with actual service delivery failures versus saying that, we're dealing, as you put it there to the listener there, dealing decisively with our enemies. I would rather, as a South African, a non-Tshwane resident, hear more about the failures, and this is why this man needs to go. I would be, and I suppose we'll have to wait until the 26th of September when the debate is held on that particular issue. The CBD of Tshwane, Pretoria being dirty, there's some element of, just from my own experience, a few months ago, taking part in an outdoor event in the city of Tshwane, I did notice that there was quite a great deal of dirt, particularly in the areas that were covered by that outdoor event, that walk the talk that I took part in a few months ago. And also the stance of SADTU getting a lot of reaction to you. Some of it says that they should prioritize what worries them. Certainly that listener from the Eastern Cape, I believe, saying that they should be worried about budget cuts and cuts for budgets for scholar transport and the impact that will have on pupils. I suppose it is possible to do all of these things at once, right? It should be possible that they weigh in on issues of policy, certainly as far as the language policy in schools and the role of government in setting those policies and admission policies, you can address those while at the same time being vigorous and energetic about issues to do with budget cuts and how they are affecting the provinces, as we are seeing in the Western Cape and actually seeing in Gauteng as well. But I suppose I take the point you make about how much energy do you expend on one issue versus the other reveals your priorities as an organization. And I think that's a fair point for you to make. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. African Rainbow Minerals will come back to us with a response to the conversation we had a bit earlier on, about that shipment of gemstones that was stopped at the airport by SARS officials. So do look out for that coming through for you on the Morning Brief. And it's 9 o'clock, time for the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, a child burnt and infrastructure destroyed in a Buffelspoort fire, and SIU to probe maladministration within Transnet and municipalities. Good morning. A child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. The cause of the fire is not yet known. The fire has since been contained. The Northwest Fire Protection Association's Eric Stock says the child is receiving treatment at a local hospital. He has appealed to the public for help with food and clothing.
I think it is now time for the provincial government to consider declaring a state of emergency to assist us to repair infrastructure, to help people who have lost everything. We have the case of what we call the mighty mountain men, where people go into the mountain with blowers and beaters to go and try and put out the fire. And one of our heroes went in, and while he was protecting other people, he lost his own home. This is really very concerning. It is something that will remain with me for a long time.
And still in the northwest, 2 structures have been burnt down following a fire that ravaged the Modderfontein area in Rustenburg. The acting Rustenburg local municipality spokesperson, Odirile Madiba, says the cause of the fire is not known at this stage and investigations are underway.
The fire is currently under control, but the magnitude of the wind might escalate it to get even worse. The fire department will continuously monitor the situation and the municipality will provide feedback. So far, no injuries were reported and operations are still going. More details we will communicate through the course of the day.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has authorized the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, to investigate allegations of serious maladministration within Transnet, Gauteng Provincial Department of Human Settlement, the Mzumbe Local Municipality and the Free State's Masilonyana Local Municipality. The investigation will also include allegations of serious maladministration related to the reinstatement of Siyabonga Gama as the Chief Executive Officer of Transnet's Freight Rail in February 2011 and recover any financial losses suffered. This covers allegations of unlawful and improper conduct that occurred between January 2007 to date, as well as any related activities before or after this period. The MK party says while it's excited that many more well-known South Africans will be signing up to join the party, its focus is on recruiting leaders who are activists in their communities. This is according to the head of presidency in the MK party, Makasela Mzobe. Mzobe says the party is not contemplating an elective conference in the near future, as it's seized with building its structures across the country. Currently, its National High Command, the highest decision-making body, has a collective leadership of 8 office bearers and 45 additional members. Mzobe explains.
We had felt that let's not rush in building branches to rush for a conference, because we need, when we select those branches, it must be community activists, not people whose only activism is based on MK, because that's what we're trying to solve, that the public power cannot be vested only on traditional politicians. When we go to a community and we are told that there is a former football player who is well respected in the community and is marshalling the youth to play sport, young girls, young boys. Those are guys who are going to get into MK to lead. Not people whose only thing they do is politics and learn how to maneuver and plot against each other.
Making donations towards the work of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation instead of sending funeral flower arrangements is what the late anti-apartheid activist and cabinet minister Pravin Gordhan would have wanted. That's according to politician and close colleague of Gordhan, Maggie Govender. She shared why the Gordhan family is requesting donations be made to uplift communities as opposed to sending them flowers during their time of bereavement. Gordhan died on Friday after battling cancer. Govender says his state funeral is set to take place on Thursday.
I'm part of the family team because it's an official funeral. Government is dealing with it, but I'll tell you some of the things that we will be very mindful of. Praveen was not somebody who would want things to be done incorrectly or wastefully. So we would make sure that that is sorted out. It's an official funeral on Thursday. The venue is under discussion with government and it will be announced. Cremation is private. I also want to say at this point, Chanel, that the family is saying that there mustn't be flowers. Rather, donations can be made to the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, who would give it to any charity that they, could support.
Recapping the top story, a child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS car to 43187.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up. S3.
Need low-cost insurance for your older car? With Outsurance Essential, a 44-year-old woman pays only 465 Rand a month for her 2011 silver VW Polo 1.4 Comfort line and gets up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car will be covered up to 1 million Rand. Get Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 Rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
My name is Isha Mathur and I am in 8th grade. My birth name is Ishita Mathur. It's an Indian name and it means superior. I was born in Bangalore, India, and I moved to USA when I was 2. In USA, people pronounced my name as Ashida Mather. It was difficult to correct them. And then I started kindergarten. My name became Aishida, and ha ha, you have a bad word in your name. It was a moment I vividly remember. I was 5 years old, and someone I trusted pointed out the bad word in my name, as if it were my fault. The news got spread like a wildfire, and everyone in my class started laughing, teasing, and making fun of me. Every year after, my fellow classmates felt obliged to point out the bad word in my name. When my dad named me at birth, he never realized my name could be misconstrued. In India, it never mattered. Spelling names incorrectly isn't the only thing that makes having an uncommon name hard. Think of attendance with a new teacher or a substitute. It happened with me when I started high school. The teacher easily pronounced some names, and some students always had to correct the teacher. This is awkward, and it creates a terrifying and embarrassing moment when people laugh and repeat the mispronunciation. During spring break, my family and I went to Disney World in Florida. One night, we decided to order takeout dinner, and the cashier asked my dad for his name. He said Sam. Sam isn't his real name. His real name is Sumit, and my mom said her name was Anne instead of Anshu. This had never happened before, and me and my brother were so confused. When I asked my dad about it later, he said it's easier for the cashier to say. It seems along with my name, I kept stopping short. I always stop short and hesitate when saying my birth name. It comes out by default as Ashida Mather. And the frustrating thing is, it's never been easy. We can all take small steps. So next time you meet someone new whose name is hard for you to say, make yourself a little vulnerable and say, I'm sorry, that's a little hard for me. How would you like me to say your name? Chances are that person could have a shorter name, a nickname, or be glad to help you learn their name. That way, uncommon and unusual names of today have a better chance of acceptability and success tomorrow.
Oh, what powerful words from the mouth of babes. Isha Mata is a grade 8 learner, and she's an American learner of Indian descent, as you've just heard. And I think, the story that she details there so well is an issue that we as South Africans can relate with so much. I mean, how many times have you been told about names and pronunciations of names and people just not trying to make an effort? In fact, I have a similar story. When I started school, I went to a former Model C school. So as I was starting school, my pedi name, Motlatlego, was too difficult for the teachers to pronounce. So because first is my name, Motlatlego, my surname, Motlatlana. It was just too much. So then Kathy is actually my second name. So my second name ended up becoming my first name because of the ease with which it was, it was easier for the teachers to pronounce Kathy than it was for them to pronounce Motlatlego. And it's a story that I can relate with, and I know so many South Africans too can relate with their story. I just don't know what we're going to do about it because we don't even outgrow it. You get to work, corporate spaces. People don't want to call people by their full names. They don't want to learn how to do it. If your name is Motlatlego, they'll just say, okay, let me just do the short for it. No, don't do the short for it. Make an effort. Learn to pronounce my name. It's not always easy, but just learn. My producer was saying that for him, they opted for Kagiso, which is his second name, because they struggle to pronounce Oleboureng. How can anybody struggle to pronounce Oleboureng? Oleboureng is such an easy name. I can't believe it. They would say Olebour. Yeah, okay, well. So there's so many stories that we South Africans can share. Please feel free to share your story. if you have a similar story, I'd love to hear it as well. I guess mine was really just triggered by the words of Isha Mata there. Welcome to the Talking Point. A pleasure to have you with us on the show. As always, we'll kick it off with the open line. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107, and on Twitter at SFM Radio, the hashtag there, SFM Talking Point. Coming up on the show today, the second hour of the show, we're going to be looking at our education system, and in particular these budget cuts that have been spoken about in the potential deficit that exists in funding the public wage bill over the next 3 years. There's a 3.8 billion rand shortfall, and of course it has implications for multiple spheres of government, including education. So we'll be zooming in on that because there needs to be urgent action taken from a budgeting point of view. Otherwise, our schooling system is really going to be severely affected. And then the final hour of the show, we're going to be in conversation with the Tsiamiso Trust. Remember that civil lawsuit. It's one of the biggest that this country has seen when it comes to mine workers who contracted silicosis and tuberculosis while working in the country's mines. And this extends, of course, to not only mine workers in South Africa, but we know a lot of them also come from the rest of the Southern African region. So they've started out paying some of those claims. So far, 1.5 billion rand has already been paid out, but there's still many more who have not come forward to put in their claim. So we'll be following up with the Tsiamiso Trust, and perhaps your family members or relatives could be among those that would actually qualify to access those funds. So we'll have that conversation then in the final hour of the show. Remember, this is your open line. You get to set the agenda. It is your round table. One of the significant news coming out of the weekend, of course, and I have to mention it because I was one of those who went on and on about it at the time. Ronaldo Host, remember Ronaldo Host, the DA member who was accused of racist remarks and then sworn in as an MP. Well, over the weekend, of course, he was fired by the DA, removed not only as an MP, but also as a member of the party. His party membership was terminated. He was found guilty of contravening sections of the DA's constitution. The Human Rights Commission, however, is not letting that matter go. They're still going to be pursuing it before the Equality Court, and rightfully so, just to also get him to answer before the court on his remarks. You'd remember at the time he explained his comments by saying that they were made at a time where he was young and immature, and he takes greater responsibility now for his actions. But the point is that racism and discrimination have an impact on not only the individuals who are the victims of such behavior, but also on society more broadly. And the case around Ronaldo Host is a reminder for why it is important for us to speak up and to call out racism wherever we see it, because none of what happened would have happened if South Africans had not been as vocal about it as they have been. And we have to be vocal, because then we are demanding that there are actual consequences for racist and discriminatory behavior. And we're saying that there should be no excuses or even justifications for such behaviors. So I guess Ronaldo Host this morning, waking up, perhaps not going back to Parliament, but all of us have those moments when we must sit, we must reflect, we must dig deep and try to understand what has informed our previous actions, and what are we intentionally doing to be better people tomorrow. And I certainly hope that that's what Ronaldo Gous is doing.
Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain, but paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny, and down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti, Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one OUTsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone OUTsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Hi, Motlatlana, how are you? Justice Ngiani. You know what? The issue of surname is something, man. I know what. My patients are calling me Dr. Shogani instead of Shokani. So I heard that again. Give it at the end of the day.
Good morning, Kathy. It's Luann from KZN. My mom always said, if you don't know how to pronounce or spell somebody's name, ask them. It is important as that is their identity. And it is so, so true. My name is constantly spelt incorrectly or pronounced incorrectly, to the point that I actually get quite annoyed with people, which is sad, I suppose.
Good morning, Katie, here as of the station. You see, we hear what Ubaba Utabombeki is trying to say, but we don't feel sorry about ANC because we did not keep quiet. We told them ANC wake up, but they did not listen. Now Tabombeki is rushing to close the stable gate, whereas the stallion horse is already out. If you look at the political parties extracted from the ANC, we can't help ANC. It will disappear slowly and slowly and slowly. Tusi from Inanda. Bye.
All right. Thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes and text messages. Yeah, our listener, unless I didn't hear it clearly, but you didn't give us your name. You forgot to tell us what your name is. So please, if you're sharing your stories about your names, please let us know what your names actually are. Billy Masha, you're in Skukune. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Umkhonto wezizwe party took SABC to court to declare the naming of this government, GNU, Government of National Unity, unlawful. Now, I think the SABC is opposing that. Is it? Hello?
Billy Masha, the dispute is over the language that is being used.
Yes. To call the government of national unity, I think that's the main argument.
Yes.
Correct. So I'm saying, given the evidence now that there's no unity within this government, I think the SABC must retract calling this government.
Billy, why did I take you seriously? Why did I even take you seriously? I've got my thinking cap on. I'm listening intently. I'm taking notes because I'm wondering. I wonder where Billy is going with this issue. No, man, Billy.
If I'm your master and I invite you to a particular function, come here, we are going to do this thing, and you defy me, what does that tell us? There's no unity, sis. We are brushing issues. That's our problem in this country. We have brushed the truth. We have brushed reconciliation. We are now brushing unity. We'll even brush poverty. Next time we told that, no, there are many blacks who are rich, and you can't see them. Yeah?
Billy, do you think it was appropriate for the education minister to ditch that function, for her not to attend it?
I'm saying she's serving at the pleasure of the president. And when the president invites her, she's got no any other choice because she has taken an oath of office, an oath of parliament, which says she will abide by any other law and the constitution. And once the president says, this is the law, this is what you're going to do, you come and then say, but here I've got a problem. Go and debate it further. You don't say, no, I don't even come there. What does that say to us? There's no unity. It will never be.
Yeah, look, Billy. I do think that it's concerning, right? It is concerning, and hopefully it's not a precedent that is being set that when certain ministers disagree with each other and with policy decisions, that they're simply not going to show up.
Even the opposition says it, when the president calls them, because the president is the head of the state, when the president declares anything, they must abide by it and then complain later. This is the worst of what you call subordination we've ever seen.
Okay, all right. Billy Masha, thanks for that. Out in Skukune. Buya, you're calling us from Mthatha. Good morning.
Mama. Hi, thank you. I'm so happy, I just want to talk about the police. Good morning to you and your listeners. Katie, we had an event here in Mthatha this weekend. But I was so happy, Katie, to see the police all over the place. I didn't know that there were police who here in Mthatha who are on horses. I danced all day, Katie, not worrying about someone is going to come and snatch my phone, So I just want to say big ups to the new minister, Katie.
What was the event?
It was a Maskandi event, Katie. I don't know the event. What was it? But there were artists who were singing Maskandi there here in Mthatha Stadium. Hello, Katie?
Yeah, and you're sure the police were not there as part of public order management for the event?
Katie, the thing is, Katie, I've been to other events, and crime, Katie. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not sure, Katie. Maybe I got too excited early, but I just want to say to the new minister, because one thing I've noticed here in Mthatha is that the cars I see here, they are not marked in Mthatha. It's Port Elizabeth Police and all these places, So in my mind, that gives me a sense of saying, okay, these people, maybe the new minister is on something, I just hope that Katie Gengoku, from now on, they can hold that momentum, because we've been to events, Katie, the police were there, and after the event, crime, Katie, but this time around, it was different. Maybe we'll see as time goes on, Katie, but at the end of the day, when we see things like improvement, at least we must say it, Kate.
Absolutely.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
Yes,
Let's
because
give praise where it's due.
Where it's due, Kate. That's all I wanted to say. But I don't know, maybe as time goes on, that's why I'm saying maybe the new minister has a plan. I don't know, Kate. But for now, there's another atmosphere here in Mthatha. The police are not from here. It's Port Elizabeth and all these things. But as time goes on, time will tell. I just wanted to say big ups to the minister. If you're listening to me, minister, big ups to you, sir. Thank you, Kitty.
All right. More dancing in the street for you, Buya.
Yes, Kitty. I was dancing all day, Kitty. I've never been this happy.
Oh,
Thank you,
wow. Wonderful, wonderful. Buya out in Mthatha, welcoming the increased police presence in his area and saying that they should continue on this particular road. Okay, it's edging towards 9:30. We'll take your news headlines. Of course, I'm still taking your calls on the open line 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107.
Good morning. In the headlines, money, sharp objects and cell phones were some of the illegal items found and confiscated during a raid at St. Albans Correctional Centre in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape in the early hours of this morning. A child has been seriously burnt and 8 houses and a church destroyed following a fire at Buffelspoort in Magaliesberg in the northwest last night. And former U.S. President Donald Trump has said he's safe and well after what the FBI described as a second apparent assassination attempt against him. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 2395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. Here's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
All right, and of course that was local content creator, the Kifness, and he's taking the mickey out of Donald Trump's comments on immigration. He made those comments during that U.S. presidential debate last week. Can you believe that it's been streamed by 2 million people on YouTube in the last 72 hours? And of course, it's been refuted, right? The fact-checking has shown that there's absolutely no such thing that is happening. But yeah, of course, the Kifness also being a local talent, quite a funny one, actually. Let me take some of your WhatsApp voice notes before we continue with your calls.
Good morning, Katie, and all the listeners of SAFM. Katie, I like to say this today. DA, please don't quit on the GNU. Can you stay? Because I can see some change now. Because once you go, the corruption is going to start fresh. So can we just negotiate with the president and then we come up with the same idea? Because I don't want DA must quit here. And Katie, please, can you invite Minister of Public Works must come at your studio, because I've got a lot of questions that I need to ask him. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Kathy and SAFM listeners. Kathy, my real name is Mantata. During the old times when I was going to church, the Catholic priest signed my birth certificate. He called me Mantate. But you know, when somebody say Mantate, I don't even know who they calling. I don't even respond, because to me it's like I don't know what are they talking about. Thanks, it's Lucy.
Morning, Kathy. Morning, Kathy. That song of yours. They eating the cats. They eating the dogs. Oh, Kathy. Oh, thank you very much. I like that song. Oh, you make my day. Oh, morning, Kathy. This is Zimi from Katu.
All right, Dumisani, you're in Germiston. Good morning.
Eating the dog. Okay.
You see, Dumisani, I knew this was going to derail our open line. I just knew that there was no coming back from it.
That's a nice song.
And don't forget the sounds, right? They're eating the cats. Meow, meow, meow. They're eating the dogs.
Okay, Donald Trump. Okay, hello?
I'm here,
Hello?
Dumisani. I'm here.
No, I want to comment about the Bell Appeal and the government and the president taking too close to be revisited. To me, it shows that the power and the influence the minority parties have, that is the white parties have over the state. Yeah. Because, I'm saying, according to the law, the president has nothing to do now, because he already signed it. It is in the law now. He won't do anything, even if it can be. DA can shout and whatever, by law, they won't do anything. But because of the influence these parties have over the state, over the parliament, over the executive, over the judiciary, it's forced to listen to them, and then it could happen that it can go back to the parliament to be re-debated. But unfortunately, it is not supposed to be there. The DA lost the debate in court. In parliament. So it is because of that influence they have, that is the white privilege. They are now taking the parliament to the court. It reminds me of Helen Zille when he bragged that even though the liberal group during the Codesa, they were in minority, but they were able to persuade the ANC delegates from a parliamentary democracy to a constitutional democracy. He said that with that, it gives the minority group to have a final say in whatever law the majority can sign. That is what
is that not a product? Is that not a product of elections? Is that not a product of the outcome of elections?
No, man, Mr. Kid. It's not started. It's not started now. It started from 1994. Do you remember if you were there during 1994 during the Kodosa, the pathway by that time?
Hello, Dumisani. Okay, it looks like we've lost Dumisani on the line, but that is the consequence of not having an outright majority, or of having a 2/3 majority, and of course there will be debates about what does this give and take relationship mean, particularly in the context of policy, right? What does it mean in the long run? Even these clauses that the president has said will be delayed in terms of implementation. Where else are we going to see that? Are we going to see it in the NHI? And think about it, if the president hadn't said there'll be a delay, was that going to result in court action from the likes of Solidarity and AfriForum, as they had already threatened to take this matter to court? So it is going to have moments of incredible turbulence. But what does it mean for lawmaking in this country? It's what we're going to have to wait and see. Vuyiswa, you in Parktown North. Good morning. Oh, Vuyiswa, that line to you is not great. We'll see if we can put you back up on a different line. Let me go to Buti. You're in Johannesburg. Good morning, Buti.
Hi, Casey. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm okay. I thought maybe I should contribute to your show this morning. It's the first time
Welcome.
on your show.
Welcome to the show, Buti. Appreciate the call.
No, thank you very much. Casey, 2024, I think it's been a disappointing year for some of us. Actually, I think our politicians, they actually, like black political parties in general, I would definitely say, like if you check our politicians, it looks like they lack principles and they don't have backbones. I've struggled to understand how can a politicians, like I was looking at Twitter now, I checked the likes of Floyd Shivan. How do you leave an organization that you guys have they have started from the ground? Because maybe if they say there's been differences with whoever or on policy matters, there's always been challenges in any organization. But as leaders, and if they want to earn trust of the society, why can't they sit down and resolve the matters or maybe the disagreements that they are having? But starting all these small political parties that are mushrooming, it's like now in South Africa, political parties are now starting to be like churches, really. I'm not sure if it's a right thing to say, but they are mushrooming like that. So we'll end up having 10% political parties in South Africa, about 8 or 9 of them. And who's going to govern this country? There's nothing. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't see there's anything that binds us as black South Africans, that binds us together. So that even if we disagree, we must disagree at a certain time. We will need to find each other. Because if we continue the way we are doing, I struggle to understand how can people vote for an organization and then they give it a 15%, more than 2.8 million votes. An organization without constitution, organization that has been started, maybe that has got less than 6 months. But because of the political figure, and more than 2.8 million people go and vote for that political, it boggles my mind, really. I struggle to understand why should people, it's like we are just, when we vote, we are not too conscious, we don't understand the importance of voting. If you check what is happening with the DA, it's so surprising that the DA is the second political party, but if you check, only white people vote for the DA. That's where I'm Majority of them, not all of them, let me rephrase that, majority of them, they vote, and they respect their votes. But our people will find that, and they vote for all the small political parties. Like now, if you check, there's this political party for Saudi Mutwening that got about 20,000 or 18,000 votes. For what? Those 18,000 votes have been lost. But even under that 18,000 votes went to a certain credible political party, that was going to make an impact, and it was going to contribute towards the progress of the country. So, yeah, Katie, over to you. I don't know.
But here I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I wonder, because this conversation around black political parties and just leadership, it came up quite a lot in the lead up to the elections, including with some of the newly formed organizations, right? Questions about why they don't come together, especially where there are clear areas of convergence. Some of those that I remember would be the likes of Bosa, Rise Mzansi. Why don't they just come together, form? I wonder, I think the issue of resolving differences, do you think it's less ideological and more about all of these individuals wanting to be the ones in the front, wanting to be the ones at the helm of leadership?
Yes, I definitely, after the Floyd Shivambu saga, I do believe it's less ideological, really. It doesn't make any sense to any person why should Floyd Shivambu leave the EFF for the MK party. It doesn't make sense. But he has taken that decision, and which that decision has been surprising to most of South Africans. But also, like, why? If maybe we can ask another question: How did it happen that MK party got 2.8 million votes? A new party with less than no constitution, nothing, no structure, just because of one individual who has been in the helm of South Africa for a decade and who has been in a senior position for almost like 20 years in South Africa. But people decided to vote for that political party. It's quite strange, and this thing, the way it's going, will end up, people are not conscious with their votes, and the votes are very important. Now we are talking about the GNU. We're saying GNU this and that and that. But if you check how Johannesburg is now, today, it's because of that. Johannesburg under the ANC, I'm not the supporter of the ANC, but Johannesburg under the ANC, when ANC was still running Johannesburg alone, Johannesburg was not in this state.
Okay, Budi, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to leave it there. Much. Yeah, look, debatable that Johannesburg was not in its state. Certainly there were years when it was getting better, but it did begin to regress in that regard. Vuiswa in Parktown North, you're back on the line. Good morning.
Yes, Kathy, how are you?
Good, Vuiswa.
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for giving me that opportunity. On the name issues, that's not my actual point. On the name issue, I had people, sweating in London, in England, let me say. But we were reprimanded every time we made a mistake of any English word pronunciation. But they couldn't pronounce my name. So I gave them an option because my other name is Zizi. So I say, you can call me Zizi. Oh, it was even worse. Some Zizi, some Zizi. Yeah, the name issue is a problem. Yeah, but what I called for is Minister Ronald Lamula in the U.S. His speech, it was quite courageous.
Vuyiswa, the connection to you, I'm so sorry, is so bad. We're going to have to see if we can't take you again sometime later in the week. Unfortunately, very difficult to make out what she's saying. It sounds very windy also where she is. Anonymous, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Sister Katie. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Okay, I remain under anonymous. Sister Katie, it's a great pleasure for me to talk live on SAFM as a long-time listener, but first-time caller.
Welcome to the show, Anonymous.
Okay, thank you so much. Sister Katie, it has been 23 years I'm living in this country, South Africa, and I'm a legally permanent resident, right? So last week I had an appointment to Thulasizwe Hospital to take my child with. Yeah, we came there, everything was fine, the service was very good, we met a doctor. I don't know if I must mention his name, but yeah, everything went fine. But Saketi, when they gave me the folder to go drop it somewhere, I was shocked. I was shocked to find that on the folder on the top, they put 3 times, they put a stamp indicating that this is not South African patient. So my question is, are you able to find out from the health department, Western Cape Health Department, to find out why they send message? Because a stamp is not just a stamp. A stamp is a communication. It's a message. So do they notify the doctors that the patient you are treating is not a South African? And it's quite worrying. I don't know how do you find it.
So, Anonymous, when did you officially become naturalized in South Africa?
It was in 2015.
2015.
Yes.
And your child was born in South Africa?
Yes, born in South Africa. Never knew another country.
Yeah.
They've never been out of South Africa. They're studying here. There are 3 daughters that do have, but this is one of them.
And she's got a South African birth certificate,
Yeah,
identity document, etc.
Okay, myself, I do have a South African green ID, but to her, things in Pretoria, they don't have yet their permanent residencies. We applied in 2022, still a backlog. You know about the story of backlog, but she have refugee status, which allows her to be in South Africa to study also. But myself, I'm a permanent resident already, but there are documents still pending somewhere there.
Okay, so she's got refugee status right now.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, valid refugee status.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, and so your issue was with the fact that you felt by putting that stamp that says foreigner, she's being profiled.
Yeah,
by
the
doctors.
The stamp say clearly no SA, no RSA, no RSA. That means non-South African. Why?
And what message do you feel that the person who put that stamp on her file was communicating with the other doctors who would receive that file?
Yeah, because the folder you get from the reception office, and then just imagine the folder would go everywhere, even to the doctor. It's a message. My worry is that they are communicating to everybody, especially to the doctors, that the patient you are treating today is not a South African, and what is the meaning?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, Anonymous. I understand what you're saying. What is the relevance of it? Because at the end of the day, it's a patient who is ill, who needs help. But did you feel that your daughter was treated any differently, though, when she receive medical treatment?
No. There was no any bad treatment. I did appreciate. That's why I still remember the name of the doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The service was good. I think I've been treated very well. I've been in hospital. In 2010, I got an operation in Pagabay Hospital. Everything was fine, but only this time that stamp to me, put a kind of worrying,
Yeah, it is something that I think we're going to continue to grapple with as a country, Anonymous. Anonymous out in Cape Town. Yeah, I wonder if you have any kind of feedback for somebody who's in Anonymous's shoes, because obviously it's about, that's a stamp that says that, you don't belong. It automatically is exclusionary in nature. And I wonder what the reasons for the officials would be for that. I'm sure they have their reasons too, perhaps even from an administrative level. But is that how things are done? I don't know enough about the process to actually comment, but perhaps somebody else out there does. Jack Daniel, good morning.
Good day, how are you?
I'm all right. You're calling from Pinetown.
Correct. My original name is actually Jacques, but because a lot of my clients can't pronounce my name, They call me Jack Chris and Jakes and everything, so the easiest way to do it was to be called Jack Daniel, because the first three initials are JAC.
I wanted to say that, Jack, when I look at it, I wasn't sure whether it was Jackie or Jacques. Have you been called Jackie before?
I've been called everything. Jacqueline, Jakes. I've been every nickname under the sun.
Yeah, you just made life easier for yourself. And I bet nobody forgets Jack Daniel, hey?
No, not even my clients. I'm a rep on the road, so it's the easiest way to do it.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that story. Jack Daniel out in Pint. Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
Jack. Go ahead.
I just want to bring something up. I'm really getting fed up with South African revenue services, because they want us all to be legal and we must be abiding citizens and everything, and we pay our money duly and up to date. My mother passed away 4 years ago, and every single Monday morning we get a message saying, please be patient, we're verifying the banking details. So what's happened is my lawyer, well, not my lawyer, my mother's lawyer, who is in charge of the estate, she sent her photograph in, she's taken a photograph with proof of documentation. The accountant has tried to do all the paperwork, everything. SARS owes my mom's estate 30,000, and for 4 years we cannot get any joy at all. And I think it is totally and utterly disgusting that when we owe them money, they want to put interest on, and they want to charge us extra. But when we owed the money, we can't even get our money.
Yeah,
I think that's disgusting.
Especially for 4 years, Jack. Look at me go for it now. I'm doing exactly what you've been experiencing over the years. So let me do this, Jack. I'm going to put you through to our producer, Lebo, and he'll get you in touch with the people at SARS. Perhaps there's some explanation or reason they can give for why that has been the case. Charlie in Koffiefontein. Morning, Charlie.
No.
Yes,
but
Charlie.
Anyway, yes, Charlie. The Bella Bill, Kathy. The Bella Bill. I have two issues with the Bella Bill. Number one is our president's inconsistency, him being spineless, him pandering to every whim of the DA and the white Afrikaners. All the processes were followed. The public was invited to make comments on the bill. Everything went through the right channels. And then when all the processes were done, the bill was sent to Parliament for approval. Now, out of the blue, here comes the privileged white Afrikaners, AfriForum, and Solidarity. The president holds certain sections of that bill to appease them. Who are they? Why did they not object when the bill was open to the public for objection?
Charlie, I think if we're being honest, they did object. They did.
Then, if they did object and then the bill was passed, what do they think that this interdict of them is going to serve now? Because Parliament passed that bill, the president signed it into law. But like I said, that our president is spineless. He panders to the whims of white Afrikaners, whereas this bill was open to the public and everything. Yeah. So now certain sections of the bill now have to be stopped because AfriForum and Solidarity, who are using Afrikaans as an exclusionary measure to not admit black people to schools in our country. Let's not forget this. African schools are in South Africa, which is our country. So Afrikaners should not make this that they say no, because now they want to use Afrikaans as an exclusionary measure, and then they will say no, we're going to erase their history, their culture. No one is going to take Afrikaans away. But I think accommodate the students in their own country.
You know, Charlie, I've also been thinking about whether this wasn't a move by the president to avoid it being taken to court. And to avoid it being challenged in court, because that was absolutely going to happen. And so you have a situation where there is this government of national unity, and now you're having to fight in court with some of
the partner.
Yes.
Yes. But Afrikaans is not being taken out. There's a problem. You're not removing it. No one is saying that Afrikaans is going to be removed. We are saying that the Afrikaans schools need to be inclusive.
Okay.
Yes. And a critical last point, the issue of the peoples who are not documented, that is going to set I don't know what precedence, because if I'm in the country illegally, I send my child to school, the child gets accepted, obviously I cannot be deported. What happens to my child? This is another method for people who are not documented in South Africa to find a way to stay there. Think about it, because, yes.
Okay, Charlie, we're going to have to leave it there. Look, I think there are many aspects of the Bella Bill that are going to come into question, especially now that it is up